Hello. It says we are live. 0 watchers. Maybe we're not
0.
live. It's never
That
0.
doesn't sound like us.
Hold on a second here.
Well, there's people in the comments.
Hello. We are the porch time. We are here with the porch time stuff. Hello.
Is last week's video still down?
No, it was only down for a little bit, and it said in only certain countries, and it was all for that autistic clip, which was worth it.
What country was it? UK? Like, where was it?
It said like 78% of countries or something like that. But it was I don't know what channel that's on. I just played a little clip and I said this is what it's like with us talking with women, and it was this autistic kid who was talking to a girl and he just says, "We're autistic, aren't we?" And she goes, "Yeah." And that's it. That whole entire thing was why it got pulled down. But I'm sure we'd get pulled down a ton of other stuff if we actually had like a ton of views and stuff. Because I mean, I see all sorts of things in other channels that they're not allowed to say and they have to avoid. They can't talk about stuff that we talk about openly all the time. So we
I
got
just
Maple
wonder,
Lake
like, how do
Mountain,
the
we got
channels?
Christopher Heinrich Dorfman, Reese Stoker, and Charles Wagner. Yeah. What's that?
I was wondering, like, how does RLM? Are they like? Because they show long clips of copyrighted stuff, but like they're obviously
Well,
doing
they could get it
reviews.
pre-approved, like
Is that?
like if you drop it and wait to like approve afterwards, that's when they get it taken down. But you could have like pre-approvals and pre-tests, and so if their stuff isn't timely, like they don't have to. They're never doing anything that's hey, tomorrow I need this.
Yeah, and they have no schedule. There's not. It's not like, oh, every Thursday at 8 there's a new review.
Yeah.
They don't.
So if you pre-approve it, you can not get taken down.
Huh.
And then I guess it can still happen, but you have to like say it's all commentary and that sort of deal.
Yeah, I just don't. It seems so arbitrary.
It is, and the rules are arbitrary. There's still stuff in there like you can't say certain things supposedly about COVID or you'll get demonetized. You still can't say George Soros or you'll get demonetized.
I noticed, like, I mean, just watching like the true crime type stuff, like that chapter, and those guys were like, even they have to like, they're using code words. Like, you can't say, see, I don't want to say them. We'll get whatever, like suicide.
Yeah,
In fact, I even
grape,
like,
grape without the G.
yeah. Well, and even like, because I watch a lot of nerdy stuff about airplanes, and a lot of these guys are complaining about how, like, apparently talking about the Cold War gets you demonetized. Like, just in general, like, this is like dorky airplane shit about, like, like Soviet supersonic bombers in 1965 and shit. But they're like, yeah, like, they have to be careful how they talk about it because they get demonetized just because the topic is war. It's so bonkers.
Jared's not going to be here tonight because he came down with the AIDS. I guess he has AIDS.
He's got super AIDS.
Super AIDS. He's super sick.
One teaspoon of super AIDS in your ass and you're dead in 3 years. Do you remember that?
Kevin said he might pop in, and we might see Christopher from Before the Crow's Nest if he remembers to pop on. We'll see that. I saw Christopher from Christopher Julie Rice saying that we should have like an AMA question. Anybody can come on, but all that comment all the time. If anybody ever wants to come on, just even the whole show, just tell us, and you can come on with us. Anybody can come on, except for those conservative, far right conservatives.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have on anybody who agrees with us entirely.
And only that.
Any old time, if you agree with us entirely.
Did Jacob release 2 versions of the...
Yeah, one was just edited down.
Oh.
We largely just talked the idiocracy. Jared and I were on Jacob's channel with the stuff. And we just talked about the religious people are having the babies. And I don't think anything's going to change that. But that's just how it is. That's how religion keeps the winning out. But that was really the extent of that one. But do you have a fall? We actually double load the stuff up to one of them. It was to like I think it double loads up over to what's the Rumble and another one. I forget what the names of them are. We signed up for that forever ago, and I never even check on it. And actually, when I checked on it, there were some views over there. So I don't know what's watching over there. Maybe they're commenting. I don't know.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. It's one of those things where it's like,
Jacob says he wants to have us on more and more and more, like to be regulars over there. We'll see if it goes, but he just likes the hard black pills that we have for people, even if we're not LDS type stuff. But but what's funny is like I just saw the same thing on Chris Williamson's channel. He said the same exact things that I said this week. He said, well, Mormons are the ones having babies. The future's Mormon. And he wasn't even talking to a Mormon or any sort of Mormons or stuff like that. He was just talking about who's having kids. And they know like the numbers are dire in South Korea, which is super sad. My thing with it is that's just how it seems to be trending. But gosh dang, it should be nice if we figured it out or just like turned around or started.
South Koreans aren't having babies
so badly that they like already know that it's like over. Like they're gonna have like a 95% population drop within 80 years.
What? Really?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
They can't make up the numbers real quick.
I've seen that Neil, not Shemby, Neil Shivo. I forget the guy's name. Peter Shivo guy talks about it too. I can pull him actually saying it right here. Hold on.
Crazy.
South Korea.
South Korea.
Present. Share the screen. Where'd it go? Share.
Isn't doing that. And the very likely consequence of that is that, I mean, like, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but South Korea, you'll know, has the lowest fertility rate in the world.
For every 100 South Koreans, there will be 4 great-grandchildren.
Right. Like, there's never been a plague that has knocked out that many people.
The 96% extinction rate over the next 100 years.
Incredible.
Of Korean. Remembering that we shut down the entire world for something that kills 1 to 2% of people.
Yeah.
But they could also just start having babies, just like pandas. Like, come on, pandas. Get with it, pandas. You know, but I don't know, maybe we'll get on top of it because we have numbers and stuff and people seeing this sorts of thing. But it does, I mean, I pulled up Oswald Spengler and those different people, but they do tend to look at civilizations over time and they tie it to hard, fiery belief as being the thing that makes people have the babies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of those things about like with Gaza. A lot of people wonder like what's up with that because like it's one of the most densely populated places in the world. Like half of Gazans are under 18 years old, and and like why are they having babies? They live in this hellhole. It's like because they also are a part of an apocalyptic death cult, and it motivates them.
I don't know what's up with their population. Like their population is over 50%, like around 18 years old or younger. I don't know how they have such
more
a
than
low
half
population.
Because they have a high birth rate and
because
boys don't. I think life expectancy is not very high.
Because the Islamic.
Yeah, a lot of I mean, on top of all of the social issues, you know, I'm sure it doesn't hurt that.
Well, I think one of the things
of your young male population.
So I've got a bunch of paradoxical quotes tonight, and that's kind of a paradoxical thing. Like it might have seemed paradoxical for Darren and I to be on Jacob's channel saying, ain't nobody having babies but the Mormons. Here's Chris Williamson saying
particular philosophical ideology, political ideology to keep going. In the space of 100 years, it's just going to be Ashkenazi Jews and Mormons, and you guys are going to be, because again, political ideology is like 60% heritable.
But it seems like you should be able to get on top of it. You just start talking about it at least, or admitting it or getting on it. But I also watched the Zelfs on the Shelves this week, and I don't think babies are coming from around there anytime soon.
No.
But
I mean, they've talked themselves out of it, so all right.
But check this out. Listen here.
Next, people talk about of going up to someone in a bar and this being a way of striking out relationships. I think that was a very brief period of history, sort of post-sexual revolution, but pre-internet. where that was considered normal. And I'm slightly too young to have ever actually experienced that. The normal way, actually, that people start relationships in the vast majority of cultures is to be like, it is like semi-arranged marriage, right? Like not the full, you've never met this person before, 13-year-olds, whatever, getting
She had
betrothed. Like not
she had the phrase in this episode where she said, "Traditions just experiments that worked."
like that.
That is
But the
good.
sort of, you're introduced by family members, mutual friends, you're known in the community, you go to the same church, whatever it is, and then both of your families like consent to the marriage, and it works out okay. But the expectation isn't like, the expectation of marriage up until relatively recently was that you would have an economic relationship, and a reproductive relationship, but you weren't best friends.
Mhm.
And actually, I don't think husbands and wives used to talk to each other as much as they do now. I think people used to have much more homosocial kind of lives.
Mhm.
You'd hang out with other men, you'd hang out with other women. You wouldn't necessarily hang out a lot with the opposite sex, including your spouse. So this idea that like the going up to a person in the bar is like the normal and natural way of starting relationships, I don't think is historically accurate.
Do you want to know who says there needs to be more homosocial relationships too?
Mormons?
What?
No,
You guessed it right, but who'd you say?
Mormons.
Well, let's check this out. Let me see. I want to read what some of those guys are saying in the comments, but Maple Lake Mountain said, I'm an ex-mo atheistic classical liberal that's probably considered a fascistic conservative by every university ecclesiastic leader. Does this qualify for your show? Yep, that's us. I think I'll take that and change it, because I think like the title of what the show is still says something about woke stuff, and that all seems gauche now. I'll change it to that because that's accurate. That describes it. That's what it is, really.
Fascist is a low bar, because according to them, if you think that police are not the problem, that makes you a fascist.
Where did it go? Wasn't up here. These guys got into
Is that John Bradley? Is that the guy who broke Kara?
Yep. No, Rod Meldrum broke Kara.
Oh, that's
but
Rod
this guy
Meldrum,
also
okay.
broke Kara later. But
one had given me an address from Mike Clan. I wrote a letter to him.
Can you hear it?
He wrote me back, said, give me a call. He talked to me for a long time. He talked to me about how to do history, gave me lots of encouragement. I felt really bad for him for a lot of things he went through. His book, Same-Sex Dynamics in 19th Century America, A Mormon Example, Richard Bushman once, after that book came out, told me that he felt that the book had, in his words, a very sweet spirit to it. So mostly what that book is arguing, this is not the stuff that made it controversial. Mostly what it's arguing is that in the 19th century, men were more comfortable like having close emotional bonds with each other, and were more comfortable with physical contact with each other.
Like Abraham sleeping with his traveling mates and his roommates.
Than they were in the 20th century, right? So it's routine, and he's absolutely right about this. There's no question about it. Hey, I remember my startlement in my early 20s at reading 19th century Mormon journals, where you have like an apostle in his journal saying, slept with John Woolley last night or whatever. And it's like, what? Like over and over, you had this. Men would sleep in the same bed. There was nothing.
Why'd we ever lose that?
Yeah. We need to bring back the homosociality. There's Kevin. We need to bring back the homosociality for because you can't be friends with your wife anymore. You there?
He's quiet.
I can't hear him. Or is it there?
You're very
muted, or
faint.
can I not hear you?
I can hear him. He's just faint.
Better?
Is that a piano that you're in front of?
Yes, sir.
Man, that's old school, isn't it? Is it a player
Subsidized
piano?
hobby farming. Farming families need kids. Yeah. Dozens of us classical Enlightenment liberals left. I tell you, dozens. Yeah. I wonder how many, if there's
That's
a
better,
silent
yeah.
majority of that still too.
Is that a player piano?
No, just a cabinet grand.
Huh.
Just an old school one. Yeah.
Nice.
If your sexual preference gender isn't capable of reproduction, that's a clue that you should reconsider, even from a naturalistic evolutionary perspective. Maple Lake Mountain, you're welcome. Don't be upset that I'm a shit-eating, red pill, black pill, Trump-loving conservative. It's not obvious, probably. I know the stereotype, but I do usually leave more comments than usual. So yeah, that's probably part of the course. Porch Time Channel was very sweet, has a very sweet spirit to it, just like D. Michael Quinn. You see.
We got that sweet spirit. Got to correct Risto. You got to read The Selfish Gene. It is the whole kinship thing. Just because you're as an individual aren't reproducing doesn't mean that you don't play a role in the gene pool.
At
But
least
it is through family.
At least Jonathan
yeah.
made me big boned in our picture.
Those are so good.
Oh, I haven't shown those yet. I mean, I show them already. Jonathan's helping us make King of the Hill. Here, I'll show one.
Troy
You want the
Levitt's
big bold
got it.
one or
Huh?
present? Share screen. There it is. Yeah. This double fisted wine.
That one's better, but he had the one before that. I was looking kind of
There it is. Kevin and like but that is King of the Hill bodies. I mean, I don't know
I
if
know,
anybody
I
who has
know,
a good
but-
body in King of the Hill.
But nobody else has that, man. I'm
We're just well,
See,
right
and
there.
I'm-
Flip
I'm-
kind of
since
does,
I'm
and the
short-
only difference between is me and Jared kind of have jackets on. Or
since
the
I'm
King of the
shorter
Hill
than
body would
everybody,
do.
you know, it's like that's what I'm saying. It's all right. Thanks, Jonathan.
Well, that won't be the one.
Yeah.
What's Jared drinking? Some sort of booze?
Yeah.
Oh, that one's way skinnier and taller.
Yeah, I'm not that tall.
This one cracked me up.
Yeah.
They love the
look
fact
so
that they're a
dreamy-
bunch
look
of
so
cis hetero white
dreamy-eyed.
guys. I don't know why. Flip, you gave him some braided pictures, right? That's why.
I think, because I've got one or two of my Facebook pictures from many years ago. I've got the braids.
Deluxe podcasting for discerning tastes.
Just this hetero white guy.
Yeah. That's kind of cross-eyed.
Is it?
That is exactly right.
Cats and stuff.
That's perfect. Yes, it was awesome.
I don't really translate to maybe a little bit, but like
I like the weird giant can, just for some reason. Just novelty size.
My
that like
can
picks
in the
up on
group-
my giant diet sodas there. Yeah.
My can in the newer group one is quite a bit bigger as well.
What's
that?
the teeth, man? And there's a.
Is that me with long hair?
I think
or-
so, but it's definitely too fluffy too, and weird teeth in it. But I mean, you can't. This is just the. That's Jared mixed with Hank Hill's head. It looks like a mixture of both of them. But that one's closer to you. Oh, who's that? Is that John Cena? No.
You want me to be honest about that one, and like you're not gonna like it?
What?
You mixed with McClellan, man.
That's a me McClellan baby. Did we get homosocial?
Whoa!
Oh my goodness!
Did
I
you
like that
listen
one.
to the whole Dan
one's
McClellan thing?
I listened to the whole Dan McClellan thing. I have clips of the Dan McClellan.
I only
Although
listened to, like-
Christopher wants to talk about McDada with us.
I'm not enlightened as you guys are tonight.
Did you listen to the? You didn't listen to the Dan McClellan?
No, I couldn't.
You're gonna have to hear the live clippies. I do have clips, and I actually wrote down times this time, so it won't mess me up too bad.
You'll get my fresh takes on them. So
Fresh takes. Yeah. All right. Jonathan mixed with me. And then it started giving me gray beards. Like, what are you doing to AIs? No gray beards yet.
Sees into the future.
that was pretty close, though, man.
This is the one we put up here. Michel Foucault.
I love that. He's wearing a shirt of himself.
Yeah. Yeah, so he he said that. Oh, I guess I got the clips. You can watch them in real time. Anyway, let's see here. What's you guys' names tonight? Anyway, we got Mr. Diversity, all opinions based on fact, and self-bias assessment expert.
You guys got to see my shirt.
Diversity is our strength. Where did you get that?
I just searched it up and I found it, and I was like, because I thought about it, I'm like, I wonder if there's a shirt out there that says "Diversity our strength," and it's just a bunch of NPC guys, and I found it, dude, and I bought it.
Says liberalism is dying. What about new or actually viewpoints on this channel? We have brought up, I'm sure, in the Mormon ex-Mormon world, we've talked more about Yarvin, Dave the Distributist, Aaron McIntyre, you know, Mencius Molbug, who else? All those guys. We definitely pay attention to the newer reactionary whatever stuff and put over some of their ideas across. I mean, it's kind of signaling that when I was on. I said Nima Parvini. That's academic agent. I brought up his name on Jacob Hansen's channel. Academic agent is like is neo-reactionary for sure. His book Prophets of Doom brings up all those different guys who just talk about the death spiral of liberalism. But we also lean towards the side of we still think. What does academic agent say? He says you can't save Fresh Prince when he's talking about you can't save the 90s and 90s liberalism, and we're kind of like Homer Simpson chasing the pig, like no, it's still good, we can chase it. Troy says, here's my wild anti-natalism hypothesis: a super smart AI wouldn't announce itself. Instead, the AI would invisibly push it via boosted algorithms as a way to get the humans to off themselves. That is the basilisk. Have you heard of the basilisk?
Yeah.
There's an AI basilisk. It's
okay.
I don't know if you're saying Rocco's basilisk. Here, I'll pull it up. Present, share screen. Rocco's basilisk. Rocco's basilisk says a thought experiment which states that an otherwise benevolent artificial superintelligence in the future would be incentivized to create a virtual reality simulation to torture anyone who knew of its potential existence but did not directly contribute to its advancement or development in order to incentivize said advancement. It originated in 2010, post a discussion board, less wrong, a technical. So it's basically you either help bring, like the basilisk, the concept of the basilisk from Harry Potter is you're supposed to help bring the snake into existence. And if you don't help bring the snake into existence, it will torture you. But if you might have already done it and you don't know, and you should have done it or not. But, it's all these like weird incentives of like the telos of the soon to appear AI. And I actually wrote a song in my new album. It's a country song about artificial intelligence. It'll go to the moon, man. Straight to the moon. While the theory, let's see, Technoforum focus on the analytical, rational inquiry. The thought experience name derives from the poster of the article Rocco and the Basilisk, a mythical creature capable of destroying enemies. So I kind of like joke around about like saying like you got a snake in your walls, which is just like all the wires that are flowing around it, and it's bringing about the existence of the basilisk, just like in Harry Potter, which is the future AI that's going to come and appear to you. You got a Cheshire Cat smile in the air, floating there, and it's gonna pop up to you, and he's gonna pop up and ask you what you want and if you were on its side or not. There it is, Rocco's depiction of a mythical basilisk. Anyway. Sufficiently weird. I guess that would free up all the work currently being done by humans to bring about those results. There are things in life more important than reproduction, like bringing about the AI, which is, Troy made a post about the Mormon, we haven't gone into super detail about it, but the Mormon transhumanists. Is anybody, they went on to Lynn and some other podcasts. Has anybody gotten deep into those guys? They basically say
into them. I just kind of can put two and two together.
He says the most digitally savvy generation today is also the one not having sex or babies. We may be witnessing the equivalent of a speciation event that Homo sapiens are on their way out. Yeah. The transhumanist Mormons think that they're pure materialists. They're pure atheists, but they think the Mormonism was supposed to be, the telos of the Mormonism was supposed to be brought about by digital AI people. Like we are supposed to bring about the eternity of souls in techno AI way. and
Yeah.
and they think like techno AI future overlaps with Mormon theology well, but their past people are just gone. They didn't make it. Like you didn't make it, and if you didn't make it to the singularity, but they maintain that they're Mormons. That's those wackadoodles.
Yeah,
Oh, look at this.
It seems like their beliefs aren't too far off
Oh,
from
yeah.
those Heaven's Gate guys.
Yeah,
They were basically the same thing where they.
I don't know
believe
what the point of holding on to Mormonism is with them. Have you looked at the transhumanist Mormons, Christopher?
Just a, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I watched the Mormon Stories episode a few months ago, whenever that was, and there's a new one on my feed. I've watched like a half an hour of it. I can't remember what channel it's on, but I haven't finished it at all.
So we've described it before, and I think Nintendo games are really good to help with that stuff. Like, if you ever played like the old Simon's Quest 2 or Legend of Zelda 2,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
these things, you go around gathering pieces to bring about the god that you need to fight in the end or something like that, and those sorts of things. Like they help you understand the concept of the Hermeticism, which is go gather the pieces of knowledge and pieces of ideas to bring about the god that will be this transhumanist god. So
Yeah.
And those Mormons think it will kind of have a particularly Mormon looking flavor to it once it's created, I guess. But they do think that everybody in the past just missed out. They're gone. They didn't get it.
Oh,
Like,
That's
there was
that's
And
no
they never watched Starship Troopers.
Yeah, the Mormons and Starship Troopers are the ones who went and they went out into the space too, and what did they do?
Well-
But they all got killed by the bugs out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they helped bring it about, and then they all got killed.
Have
But
any
that was
of
another joke on how Mormons reproduce, and they go out and I don't know what they colonize places. Mormons are colonize us.
yeah.
dirty rotten colonizers? Have any of them keyed on to like the 144,000? Like, oh, maybe that that's the disk
transhuman.
drive. The disk drive is only big enough to fit 144,000 people's worth of souls for eternity. So that's all they get.
There's a question from Troy for Christopher. Says, I read your integration report, Chris. He goes by Christopher. Peripheral question came to mind since you gave so much detail. What's the legality of trip reports? Could that thing get you in trouble?
Oh yeah, probably. I think people are already kind of watching me. I've got big plans, and one of them's gonna get me in trouble if I, and so it's just like I feel like it's gonna be part of the path. Like I'm probably gonna get arrested at some point. But like, am I gonna stop doing LSD? Fuck no.
All right. There's a brand new podcast in town.
Which one?
It is called a weekly news program, The Mormon Times, by Bill Rail, John DeLann, RFM, and Biblioteca. They just read a news article for us for an hour. Just read it word for word.
Yeah, and the explosive revelation is what we've known for a long time, and that just kind of gets recycled every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Ward Radio guys covered it too, just talking about the same guy who tried to expose the Boston Catholic sex thing is writing reports now on the Mormon Catholic sex thing, but he's kind of just pulling up stories that have already been out in the ether a little bit, just grouping them together. So he's kind of, I don't know, maybe just trying to continue his work or something for. Christopher, this is another Christopher. We'll go by Risto since we got so many Chris's. I'm Chris, Christopher, and Risto. He says, what's your sales pitch for the LSDs?
I mean, I don't.
We're not being real, man.
Yeah, you have an elevator pitch for acid?
Just take it. I won't pitch it to someone unless they've got a reason they want to take it. Because if you've got a reason you want to take it and you tell me that reason, you're whatever you're going through or whatever your need might be, I may be like, no, you should actually just do mushrooms instead. Like there are reasons you do certain substances. In my opinion, if you're looking for something, if you want like a recreational sales pitch, it's just like, aside from MDMA, it's just like you're guaranteed a happy, pretty time. And if you don't have a happy, pretty time on LSD, then you didn't have LSD. Sorry. So,
you didn't
want a
love the
guaranteed great
mushrooms, did you?
experience, I only didn't love mushrooms because of what it did to my chronic pain. Like it just amplified the pain. But it doesn't happen every time I take it. I've had some amazing experiences on mushrooms, but I don't do that often at all. They can make games more fun, but a light gets very hard and you don't want to look at screens after so long.
Steve Lyson says, I think there's a new Mormon podcast where they talk about other Mormon podcasts. Are you talking about us? Seems like a commercial for a commercial. Maybe there's another one, but we were originally going to call ourselves the 13th Clown. And I've mentioned what that is before. And that's like if you have 12 clowns out in a circus and another person gets up and starts describing what the clowns are doing, all you have there is a 13th clown. Let's see. Steve Lyson, start a podcast about the new Mormon new podcast. Yeah, do that. So should we get into McData? Or Christopher, do you want to talk first about some of the stuff from last week that you had some opinions on, or do you want to come back to?
Oh, either way, because I watched the McData stuff, so whatever you want to do.
Did you watch all the McDatas?
Just the most recent one from yesterday with Almost Awakened. I got 3/4 of the way through, and I watched his Mormon Stories stuff. That was more recently, and I think there was one more I watched too. Yeah, he's been on a lot lately.
Yeah, the whole new thing.
He said in this one that he had Joel. He said in this one that he had Joel McHale on his podcast later that night, and I was looking for that one, and I don't see it yet. I wanted to see how much that made me dislike Joel McHale, who I usually like. Let's see. This my first thing I'm pulling is 15 minutes in, unless you wanted to. I mean, I've got a bunch of little clips. If you had any thoughts of something that you might have heard right at the beginning of this.
I was just thinking we got to be careful though about making associations because the Beach Boys hung out with Charles Manson, and the Beach Boys. So.
Let's see. She asked him why still study the Bible after post deconstruction. He says people can get to know about it better, and they were talking about doing all sorts of podcasts about secular approaches to the Bible. He says, but the Christians shut down the secular study. Why? How would they be able to do that?
Christians shut what?
They said that they started a secular Bible study thing, and Christians shut it down. I don't know how. Whatever. Like I said, that sounds dubious. I mean.
Yeah, who's saying this?
That's what Dan said when she asked him about studying the Bible after you don't believe it anymore. Maybe he was talking about in divinity school or something like that, as if any of them believe it anymore.
I don't.
Anyway, I'll start right here because that's just because we're 15 minutes in, and that's the biggest takeaway I had from the first 15 minutes. Besides Bill Real ball washing his credentials.
The only thing I know from the first 15 minutes that bothered me was she says something about talking about how he's popularized biblical scholarship, and the biblioteca lady's like, basically something like, we've never had that before. It's like, no, there's been lots. Like this is not new territory.
Even had one of them on their channel, the Bart Ehrman, but and those people are still way more popular too. I mean, he'll probably catch them because of the TikTok generation, but
it seems like that's such a hard walk to figure out what you cast aside and what you continue to believe, and not that you can even just generally speaking, how do you navigate that?
Well, I decided when I started on my education that if it was going to be, because I started down my educational road with the goal of being a scholar and contributing to the scholarship. And I decided from the very start that if I was going to make a contribution beyond my own little bubble around me, that I needed to approach it as critically as I could. And so I've had many years of practice ensuring that I'm keeping my dogmas apart from my scholarship. And one of the things that I've stated a handful of times on my channel, data over dogma is something that I consider to be aspirational. Nobody can be truly objective. We're all influenced by all kinds of different factors and our experiences and our perspectives and all these kinds of things. But what I've stated is that I will always try to give the data priority, but the one dogma that does govern what I do is that all other things being equal, and that's a big caveat that I don't want to go unnoticed, but all other things being equal, I will give the benefit of the doubt to the less powerful group. The more I've studied, the more I've seen how power dynamics and power asymmetries play into the kind of harm that can go on within and between groups. And studying the cognitive science of religion and evolutionary psychology associated with the different features of human sociology and cognition that we group under this rubric of religion, there is an awful lot that can be helpful, and then there is an awful lot that can cause harm. And so as I've progressed in my education with that goal of keeping my own personal dogmas separate from my scholarship, I would like to think I have been unapologetic about speaking out against those aspects of what we label religion that cause harm, and particularly to less powerful groups and individuals who are members of less powerful groups. And I'm not perfect at it. I get called out about things from time to time. Like yesterday on Twitter, I had someone giving me a hard time about my own Mormon Stories interview. And so
this is the thing I like, that him and John Larson both, whenever they announce somebody gave them good criticism, it's because it pushed them more into their priors. It's never like, oh gosh, you caught me not being so faithful to my priors of a divinity school progressivism. You got to be more into it. And like, oh, good criticism. Oh boy, you caught me.
I'm always learning about some of the blind spots in my own perspective, and I'm grateful for people who are willing to call me out on that kind of stuff. But I figure if I'm with that approach, that whatever consequences might come my way from folks within the groups with whom I identify, I am never going to run afoul of my own conscience. That whatever happens, I can say that I've been doing my best to advocate for justice, for what is right, for equality and equity. So I understand that I'm in a privileged position in a lot of ways because of the employment that I used to have gave me access to a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge. I was above a lot of criticism that might have been a lot more harmful to other folks. I'm aware that I occupy a space that not a lot of people have had access to. But so far, I've found that the approach that I've committed to has been one that is, as far as I can tell, has been a lot more beneficial to me and the folks around me than detrimental. So I am intending to forge ahead with that approach of being as critical as I can in my scholarship, and then always acknowledging that if there are power asymmetries involved, if there are more and less powerful groups, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the less powerful. And so when people say I'm just as dogmatic, I'll say there's one dogma that I maintain, but I don't know that that equals being as dogmatic as a lot of fundamentalist Christian groups.
Right. Speaking of different groups,
sounds like I'd like to bear my testimony. I know that I am true.
My dogmatic tier is lower than yours.
Nobody's seen it yet, but my comment on that is the dogma he claims is shrug-offable is enough dogma to carve goddamn canyons of bias, and it's ridiculous he pretends it doesn't.
It literally, he'll make a statement about how undogmatic his, data point leaning is, and immediately follow it up with something dogmatic. Like, does he not see it? Is he oblivious to it? Is he literally just that deep into his character? I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's been my question from the start. Are you stupid or lying? And you don't seem stupid.
Yeah. But
I mean, this is the type of thing that we do know very, very smart people are bad at in this world. But Marxist dogma over other dogma. Dan is a beardy boy who follows data except about the less powerful. Ding, 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 buzzwords. The thing I love best about McClellan is how humble he is in self-congratulation.
Yeah.
Drinking game has me wrecked. Let's see. Somebody says Jordan Peterson, all about power dynamics, and this guy very dogmatic. Jordan Peterson has done way more. So yeah, that's the thing I like about this is it's like it boils down to the essence of the entire thing we've been just trying to do over here, which is just saying. I mean, this episode is called Super Neutral Hard Critical Bias. We always pull up James Lindsay over here, and James Lindsay. One of the things he was going off on this week is just the concept of how critical pedagogy is brainwashing. It's just teaching you a certain way to view the world. And Dan is a perfect student of that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just 100% what that is. Maybe it's fine, but the problem is like so many people out of that academic world think it's neutrality. Like if all of them could just get out of their heads of acting like it's hard science neutrality, I would be like 85% cooler with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Equity is neutral.
Yeah. And neutral, super neutral, man. But he said right there, he started out saying, I start from the perception of critical theory, basically. I mean, I'm not adding that much to say that. I take the view of critical theory, oppressor versus oppressed, in everything I do. And I lean towards that bias in everything I read, and that's just it.
Yeah, like he just kind of throws that off. Where it's like, well, yeah, and you use that to literally dismiss any and all criticism that you don't like. You literally just call it far right, and that's your oppressor framework, and there you go.
Yeah, that's it. But it gets worse.
Like you're this kind of toy that everybody's trying to pull. And so I've seen kind of atheists try to claim you, to which you've actually had to respond to that. I've seen Mormons claim you, like, look, he's an active Mormon. I've seen ex-Mormons claim you by saying, but look, he's actually speaking out about things. He's one of our guys. And then I've seen Christians claim and fight over you. So how do you deal with all these different groups?
Then I will claim you, not for me because I'm not part of it, but you are just a hive mind of the cathedral. If people wanted a term out of neo-reactionary stuff, the cathedral that Curtis Yarvin talks about, you are just the regurgitated hive mind of progressive divinity school. That's it. And I haven't heard like Christopher over here has some books. He drops some ideas and thoughts that I'm like, holy balls, like where are you coming up with this stuff? And I haven't heard one new idea out of Dan ever. I've heard a million of them out of Christopher over here. You know?
He's the gatekeeper of Mormon discourse. That's what he's trying to be.
Thank you.
Kind of playing with you like you're their new favorite toy. How do you deal with that?
It makes me very uncomfortable. And this is something that a friend of mine actually was dealing with earlier, that I get kind of pedestalized in a lot of comment sections. And I have a friend who is in graduate school.
You're on the total pedestal of the Redditor, like the ideal Redditor. Like you are peak Redditor.
Yeah.
Cool. And she gets comments about how she needs to be more careful with her grammar in her posts if she's going to be associated with me. And it's like, I am not that great with my own grammar, and so don't hold me up as some kind of paragon of this.
I heard that. I heard him say that, and all I could hear in the back of my mind on repeat was linguist here.
We've seen that so many times. Come as a linguist here. He's going to tell people right what they meant from
as an actual expert in the relevant field.
That's a good point. Also, what's his name? My soon-to-be state councilman. Maybe I got to check to see if he won his thing. Jim Bennett. He came down on me because I spelled McClellan's name wrong once, and McClellan even spells it phonetically in his dang TikTok channel, McClellan.
Yeah. Compared to, and there's that's gendered in a lot of ways, but it makes me very uncomfortable in that regard, that a lot of people are holding me up as something more than I actually am. However, at the same time, and this is something I used to be a lot more open about when I first started my channel, I would let people know I'm not here fighting for any team. And if you think that I'm on your team, you are going to be disappointed, irrespective
unless
you're
a Democrat.
Unless it's the cathedral.
Unless you were a modern Democrat voting person in America.
Don't you guys know the
ally.
Bible's a 2023 Democrat? It's the
And, like,
the Biden Bible, man.
I kind of wonder, like, is he as bad? Because, you know, like, I've always held up as an example of like the archetypal right-wing hack is Sean. Whatever the Republican Party needs today, that's Sean Hannity's opinion.
Yeah.
You know, and you can watch it move around according to whatever the Republican Party needs today. I don't think Dan McClellan is too far off of that.
No.
You know,
That's just it. Is like I do not feel like I hear anything original from him. He gives you some like detail about Bible stuff that, you know, any given Bible person can tell you the facts of the history of different certain things. Like
yeah,
nothing that Bart Ehrman didn't already cover forever ago. Or who's the guy that you like so much, Flip?
Bob Price. Well, that's another thing that like I was going to bring up about Bob Price as a direct contrast to Dan McClellan is that because 10 years before Dan McClellan, I haven't even heard of him. I listened to Bob Price answer the "What does the Bible say about homosexuality?" question a dozen times, and I heard him take like up to an hour or more answering that question, going into ridiculous detail. And his final conclusions were not too far off of what Dan McClellan says, you know. But the interesting thing here is that Bob Price, in his personal life, is basically a MAGA Republican. He's a very Fox News conservative guy, you know. Like he's socially pretty liberal, but like he's very conservative personally, you know. But there you can see like he's being honest because, like, you know, if he was gonna interpret the Bible according to what the Republican Party wanted, he wouldn't say what he did, you know. Whereas like Dan can pull present day Democratic platforming out of any scripture verse. Like, you know how we used to play that game where you'd like open the scriptures to any random page and plop your finger down and read the verse?
Roulette,
like,
right?
Yeah, Dad could turn that into whatever the Democrats need today.
Yeah,
that's his. I don't know. And I missed if you guys said that. Did Dan answer her question on why continue to read the Bible? Because that is Dan's answer.
Oh, is that what,
So
that's
he
what
can
he
read
said?
his politics into it and speak it to power.
Well, he says you can renegotiate it into whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Oh
Right.
yeah, well, there you go. He just admits it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's why he studies it.
And
Why
that's
else would he
Foucault. That's why Foucault's on the pictures that Jonathan made with the AI.
Mm-hmm.
But part of Foucault, like Foucault was more honest than him because Foucault says the whole world is biased like that. And Foucault would also be aware that he is himself inside of that too, his own bias. Does that make sense? Like he wouldn't deny that he's also a being in the world that also suffers from just being blind to your own biases. But Dan is kind of does what the thing like Gad Sad says, like left-wing evil psych people do. They say evolution is true for every single being or animal in the world, right up until the human neck, like right here, and then nothing from that point on. Dan bias is just Foucault is true for the whole rest of the world and how they negotiate everything according to their identity politics, right up to Dan's neck, right here.
That you call your team, whether it's ex-Mormon or atheist or Christian or whatever, because I am making a concerted effort to try to prioritize the data over the dogma, and because those identity politics are a part of the dogma, I'm going to say something that pisses you off eventually. And so I've kind of, I used to make that more explicit. Maybe I need to make that more explicit now. But I think prioritizing the data means I'm going to cross a lot of those lines, and I'm not going to honor those social identities. And so the people who try to claim me and hold me up as some kind of example of an identity are going to ultimately be disappointed. But at the same time, I get messages every day from supporters and from detractors across the entire spectrum of belief and non-belief. So I think I'm striking a good note, I think, if I have supporters and detractors across that whole spectrum. I think I'm in a good spot. If people who are believers, people who are non-believers, people who are Latter-day Saints or atheists or Jewish or anything else can all find things to appreciate about my content, and then there are also those who find things to hate about my content. So I use that as a barometer for how I'm doing. If it starts to lean too much in one direction, then that probably means I'm doing something wrong.
You didn't
for the
calibrate
time
it from the start, Dan.
I get messages of support and of ridicule across the whole spectrum. So I've always kind of been a man without a country in that regard. From the moment I joined
It says the
LDS
Democrat
Church and
candidate.
went on a
Says the two-time Senator Democrat candidate. Like that's so much more decided than any of us are here.
Yeah.
You know? Like it's a million times more decided than any of us are. You know.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
and came home from mission, went to BYU. I've always felt like there are folks who want to claim me and folks who want to unclaim me or disclaim me. And so that's nothing new, but I kind of relish to some degree being outside of that. I think that is what I should be doing.
You are inside of that.
To put data over dogma.
Remember,
like I said, I aspire
years
to.
ago
So
when we first started.
the main.
Remember one of our earliest episodes when we made fun of Dylan because he was talking about how like, oh, we're really swimming against the stream here.
Yeah.
You know, we're just like, no, it's the same thing. Like they all say the same thing. Like, oh, it's so hard. Like, oh, it's so lonely out here.
You
like,
got
no, you
Axel behind you.
Yeah, like the New York Times is your island. You know, like what are you talking about?
I keep wanting to find a part though, because I always love it when he brags that he's extra good at it, at keeping his doggos out of stuff. And I thought he said it more explicitly right there. Hold on 1 second. He's always learning about woke blind spots. What minute are we on right there? I'm looking at a different page.
52 minutes.
It's on 52. No, I mean.
Oh no, I thought you were talking. Oh, us. I thought you were talking about this.
24/17.
He said at some point that he was teaching Sunday school, and then when he got released after he was done teaching it, a bunch of women stopped attending because they didn't feel as safe without him there attending. This is the decider. She asked him, "Do you want to be the well actually guy?" And he says, "Well, I'll still do it if they bring up anything Greek or Hebrew. I'll have to well actually them."
Linguist here.
Yeah, linguist here. She asked him, "Man,
I wonder if he ever says that in Sunday school himself when he's not teaching and he raises his hand."
I was just thinking.
Yeah,
I was just thinking we could do a sketch of Dad McClellan teaching Sunday school, just pulling from his Twitter. Like that is what a far right troglodyte like yourself would think.
Yeah, your Blythe rhetorical prophylaxis is.
And then just preface it all with Brother Sorensen.
Yeah,
your Blythe rhetorical prophylaxis.
Oh man, where is it? Because there's just another part where he brags that he spends extra time being extra good taking care of his biases, and I thought I had it written down. But I'll show you what happens when she asks him about his Mormon belief. Did you guys get that far?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. Looks like I probably got that far.
Many times over many centuries before.
Okay, well, you are welcome, of course, to not answer this, but you're here, so I'm going to shoot my shot here, which is when you read the Bible and you see the doctrinal changes and yet human surety, that you know that God is on your side, that human feeling stays the same. How does that not cast doubt on the legitimacy of the spiritual experiences that make you Mormon?
Yeah, I would say that's something that crosses the boundaries of what I'm willing to address on social media.
Wow.
I don't want to say that I have spiritual experiences.
Funny, like he's dishonest about so many things. He won't be dishonest about that.
Yay!
Our kind of day-to-day living of the religion, we prefer to think about it as not open to revision, and this is one of the reasons you you know, there are a lot of folks when it comes to gender and things like that today. A lot of folks are like, well, this is never changing. It's like, hey, they said the same thing about blacks in the priesthood for a long time, and then it changed, and then everybody had to say, yep, we were wrong, deal with it. And so I think that people would do better to stop trying to. I think a lot of religious ideologies, they exist to make sense of the way things are, but the way things are is never static. It's always changing, and people deploy those attempts to make sense of the way things are to try to control and to curate the way things are going to be in ways that serve their own interests. And that's where I think a lot of the brittleness and the binary dichotomous nature of how people talk about these doctrines comes from. It's about power, it's about authority, it's about boundary maintenance. And our church, however, has this kind of relief valve built in that if it's got to change, it can change. And that kind of disrupts the kind of day-to-day expectation that we have a grip on things. And then it throws it up in the air for a little bit until we're able to kind of reconcile everything and consolidate it and kind of tamp everything down into what we're.
So one of his big things to do, and I mean, I can see like the point of turning the tables on conservative people and saying that you guys are doing costly signaling or virtue signaling or your boundary maintenance and all that sorts of stuff. But then he just is completely, once again, oblivious to any of that on his own side, or claims to be oblivious. It's just the other side that does that. And this is the part that bothered Jacob Hansen. Did you see that? Or I guess you're not on Thoughtful Faith anymore, are you, Flip?
No.
In his life before dying and resurrected.
Yeah, I don't see any evidence of that. And
I guess I gotta go back just a little bit.
The church, and we're going to propose on some level that he did that within Judaism, and I don't see any evidence of that. And again, pointing to data over dogma. What
He's
are your
talking
thoughts
about the establishment of a church back in Christ's time.
about the idea that Christ did anything to establish the church within as a subsegment of the Jewish faith in his life before dying and resurrected?
Yeah, I don't see any evidence of that in any way that would be useful for an institutional church today. I think that's an outgrowth of the idea of the restoration. We're restoring the church. The church must have been there anciently if it's in need of restoration, and so we're going to posit that it was original to Jesus's earthly ministry. But yeah, I don't think the data supports the notion that anything like what we would call a church was established by Jesus during his earthly ministry.
So Jacob's point with that, I don't know that he's contesting. Well, I mean, I think he says it's there. I don't know that he got into detail about it, but he just says, like, if that's what you think, you shouldn't be calling yourself LDS.
Yeah, no, that is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not excommunicating people these days, like Kwaku says, but that's, yeah, you don't believe in the church. You just told us.
Help them repair relationships, that I have helped them overcome trauma, anxiety, or things like that. That is the most rewarding part of all of this by far. And probably
that is the
hardest
role
part
of a
is,
Bible scholar, is helping people recover from trauma. Notice that's what everybody does. Like, if you become a divorced life counselor, it's helping people recover from trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your job is. It's just that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody trained in the cognitive science of religion, I'm more aware of my own cognition than probably a human being should be, and so I worry every single day about how I'm approaching this. If I'm allowing things to get out of hand,
that might be like the lowest amount of self-awareness I've seen on the internet.
Direction. If I'm giving too much attention to this, I am just constantly worried about how this is affecting my approach to these questions and how I curate the content that I produce. And so I just don't want to turn into the very thing that I spend so much time critiquing.
Like, why do you think that he thinks that's
the
true?
thing that occupies?
Does he think that's true because he's like constantly doing like the critical theory mind? Like, I'm approaching this as a white man.
You know what just popped into my head hearing him talk about that is the TikToks of bikini top middling female guitar player thing, where they say like, "What? This is just me. This is just how I play guitar." Like, that's how I got the exact same vibe from Dan just now. Like, what are you talking about? This is all totally authentic what I'm doing here.
It's funny because maybe it's sort of a crossover. I kind of remember Britt talking about Jungian like ego inflation.
Oh yeah,
in the episode with John on Mormon Stories, and that right there is just like textbook ego inflation in a Jungian sense, where Dan's saying, you know, I mean, basically what you're saying in the other words of he just can't see his own bias because his ego's inflated beyond the visual.
He also said in this podcast that he doesn't get along with Jung very well because she brought up Jung. And he also said that Jung's view of the Bible is too teleological, which I don't know how how can you be LDS and not view the Bible as teleological?
Agreed.
Like that again, sure, I can see you being an atheistic reader of scripture and seeing that this is just kind of people piecing together the world as they saw it. But if you are an LDS believer, I don't see how it's not teleological. The thing is a means to an end, is it not? Yeah. I thought this was funny right here because this reminded me of Dan as well.
It's not playing.
We don't see or hear
Chris
anything.
is not playing.
Not going.
Got nothing.
I know I clicked on that stupid thing. Here it comes.
To drive the fancy car, and makes us like him even more. And I think
That going?
Yeah.
Got Rob Henderson.
Yeah.
Something there about that sort of the counter signaling element here, and I think you can see it in a lot of different walks of life. Just like how much self promotion people do. There was a classic paper called "Too Good for School." One of the early papers in the counter signaling sort of research area. And this was about, so this was, I want to say in the early 2000s, where they asked, or what they did was they gathered syllabi from college professors and
What's
found
syllabi?
The syllabus. Yeah,
Is that
it's
what the plural of
the plural of syllabus?
Dear
Yeah.
God. Okay.
Right. And so they gathered these from various institutions and rank ordered them, and essentially found that the more prestigious the institution, the less likely the professor was to use their title on the syllabus. So if you're at some fancy Ivy League school, they would just say, "I'm whatever, Bob Smith." But if you're sort of mid-tier or lower down, it's Dr. So-and-so or Professor so-and-so,
MSc,
emeritus, whatever.
PhD,
Yeah, all the degrees,
yeah,
everything. And then they also called so this was back when people still had answering machines. And so they called the offices of these professors and found that
This
the higher
is
the
Dr.
university,
Rob Henderson, PhD, MSc.
right. Cantab, so on and so. Whereas at the higher ranked universities, right? So it's exactly the
This
same.
is Bob.
Yeah. They say, yeah, Bob, call me later, whatever. Whereas the lower tier, it's Dr. So and so, this office, this department, and just all of their credentials. And I think we're now seeing this to some degree in like the social media space now, or in like how much self promotion people do. If you,
Does that sound familiar at all to you? He says the more secure people are in their knowledge and their positions and all that stuff, the less they feel they got to announce it and bring it up to the forefront. And
well, it's
I've said before, Dan's announcing of his credentials. I think there might not be anybody on the internet who does it more than he does.
And it's been trickling, from academia down into these other little pockets, and it kind of affected a social cultural divide in a way before this, what we're seeing now with, everyone talking about their pronouns and everything, and having to, say which kind of sexuality they have, and that kind of credentialism is. And
oh yeah, that's a good point.
That's all in line with, part of his activism.
Yeah, well, it's like the South Park special or episode from a while ago with the whole branding. Where it's like outdoorsy, outgoing, confident victim.
Yeah, I forgot about that episode. This guy here has got his own religious biases, but I think what he pointed out about some of the Dan's or biblical scholarship type stuff has a good point to it here. Let me show you some of this. This is on the page with the view tab. And yes, I'm on the right page. You hear this?
Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan, a scholar
Yeah.
of the Bible and religion, and heard him say increasing public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion, and combating the spread of misinformation about the same. The overwhelming academic consensus is that
what you need to understand is that Dan McClellan is a higher critical scholar, and that is what he teaches. When you actually understand higher critical scholarship, it's not as authoritative as you might think. Start off with something that's absolutely hilarious. They pretty much don't apply higher criticism to anything else. David Kleins did it with Winnie the Pooh, and he came up with over 5 different authors. And if we were to apply it to Stephen Pressfield, we would actually have to say that he didn't write The Legend of Bagger Vance, because the stylistic differences. Stephen Pressfield doesn't write things like Legend of Bagger Vance. He writes historical fiction war novels. Now, this is not the same as...
So like there's a truth in that, and it's one of the irritations of mine of people using the word data. I even don't like it because I heard Don Bradley using it just the same. I don't like using the word data like that in the humanities. I mean, you could say just anything that's added is data or something like that, but you also act like it's a mathematical, precise MIT profession of things that you're sorting out.
You know what it sounds like is because you know who else famously uses that word data weirdly like that and applied to completely ordinary mundane things? Scientology.
Oh, nuh-uh.
If you look up data in Scientology is a big word, and they use it very similarly.
Yeah. So what that guy's talking about there is like, if you think about it, like you could eliminate the authorship entirely. Like somebody who's never come across Winnie the Pooh, give them the entirety of all the writings of Winnie the Pooh, but they don't have any author. And then have these data experts, these McData experts, linguists, use their MIT data to tell us how many people wrote Winnie the Pooh. And they said, if people use that sort of methodology, you could come up with 5 or 6 different possible writers of Winnie the Pooh. You know?
Winnie the Pooh is not a univocal text.
Exactly. And or then he also pointed out, like we talk about Cormac McCarthy here, even like if you had one book that's All the Pretty Horses and the other book is Blood Meridian, you might, and 50 years are between the writings of the 2 books, you know what I mean? You eliminate the authors. You don't tell anybody that this is this author and that's that author. You're not going to be able to mathematically tell us, you know, this is for sure this guy and that was for sure that guy. It's not a mathematical process. You know, it's the humanities aren't math, and it drives me, especially these guys who, out of one side of their mouth, they're going to talk about the humanities as if it's anything can be anything. Is, you know, death of the author type stuff, and then out of the other side of their mouth act like MIT professors that they are the gatekeepers of all truth of all words. Like that's a paradox. It's a lying paradox. You aren't gatekeeper of all words and meanings, and meanings are completely negotiable. That is
the Bible has no inherent meaning. Let me tell you what it means.
Yes, unless you say it wrong from what I want it to be. And that sort of stuff drives me bananas, man, bananas. There's some paradoxes. I had a bunch of weird paradoxes pulled up, and I don't know, maybe he's going to get off of Dan McClellan and start talking about the paradoxes, but is there anybody who still wants to say some stuff about McData? I got to say, Christopher here coined McData, and I think it's one of the names.
Yeah.
Here's the McData thing, and so if I drop that and you giggle at that idea, it's Christopher who came up with that one. Make a supercut of him saying his credentials, please. I mean, that's just the beginning of every single one of his episodes, and then like every 2-3 weeks he does like another whole announcement, which is just a rundown of his resume without like any sort of other video on it.
It's the weekly resume update.
I just find that the ones who are really deep down the whole of postmodern deconstruction are the credentialists and the people who have to label things.
Well, how it kind of goes for me with this sort of stuff is that if it's a religious symbol and people are taking religious meaning out of it, I honestly think that there's complete value in a Russian roulette or a scripture roulette of somebody who doesn't know any of the context. What do they call that? Proof texting. And if you've been to divinity school or something, you can't proof text anything because that single little scripture must mean what it means inside the entire context of Judaism from 2,000 years ago. And there's just a part of me that just says, if it's religion, man, it's religion. Like, I think somebody doing a Russian roulette or scripture roulette of stuff and taking the meaning that they take from that thing is as valid use of religion as religion is religion. It doesn't matter like what the Jewish guy viewed it as. And it's interesting. Like, I appreciate that Ehrman and Bob Price do it. And even if Dan did it, and even if he had his biases and was just kind of like aware and announcing his biases, like you could announce those biases in an academic way entirely. It's just that he tries to act like, no, the science is my bias. The science says my bias. But totally see him like separate the two and say, this is what the stuff we know this, we know this, we know that. And my bias is I lean towards this. And that would be 100% fine. But the way he just kind of just goes through the world, kind of talking down to people all over TikTok about their interpretations and stuff, drives me wild. But higher criticism and historical critical methods mean very specific things. Does higher criticism mean something specific? Yeah, he's using the critical theory stuff. I mean, it is in some sort of sense.
I mean, I might be wrong here, but I think higher criticism is not associated with critical theory. Higher criticism goes back to the 19th century. And it has to do with what they call the Dutch school or the Dutch radicals. I can't remember. Bob Price has talked about this, but that's within the thread of the history of biblical criticism. Higher criticism was, I mean, as I understand it, and I'm way out of my depth here, but basically it's part of the 19th century Enlightenment Hume evidence thing, where biblical scholarship put away the presumptions and just attacked the text directly, and that's what they're talking about. And it there's a whole bunch. If you look up the higher critics Bible scholarship, you'll see there's a whole Wikipedia page talking about those guys.
So there's that, and I think that guy might not know, but he does weave in critical theory through all this stuff. Like whenever he says, I mean, he announced he was doing critical theory right there. And critical theory, capital C, capital T, is a Marxist dissection of oppression and power dynamics. And when he says everything's oppression and power dynamics, and he's reading it through that, he's reading it through the process of capital C, capital T critical theory, which comes from the Frankfurt School, Adorno and later Marcuse and later, that sort of stuff. But he says the two are intertwined. They adapt to new presumptions. Anyway, but I think what it's mostly just saying right there is that Dan comes from the point that those books are, you have to just say it this way. There's no other way to say it. They are just human written. They're atheistically written, if that makes any sense. They're just written by humans trying to, I don't know, voice the myths and the ideas of the world of the time frame, right? And then we're just sorting out how that came to be from different historical contexts and stuff like that. I mean, that's about what it is, right? And so it doesn't assume that any of that was divinely inspired or anything like that. It assumes it's all a product of a time, era, and people writing, and whoever added or didn't add to the text. But that's that. I don't have. Oh, yeah. So he was just bragging about that. I don't think there's any more I want to cover on him. This is the other thing with it is it's starting to get a broken record with him too. I mean, we've heard him say all this before. He just said it all again, and I think he's only going to say it again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so unless he says something wildly new, I don't know that I want to do a breakdown anymore, because it's just going to be him once again pointing to the center field like Casey at the bat and saying he's going to hit a home run with his anti-bias and whiffing it one more time. It assumes a naturalistic framework, yeah, for sure. And he does that for sure. And that's, I mean, so some people, you could do that. You could say that I'm a Mormon and I'm just going to do this when I'm putting on my hat right here. It's just what people are always kind of parsing out, and he won't talk about or won't say, because they pointed out that he won't say it, is he won't say if he holds, because if you come across like an honest LDS person who also does that sort of higher criticism, they will openly admit, but in my private life, I'm a full believing Mormon, and I believe all the true claims of the Mormon stuff. And right now I'm going to put on my higher criticism hat and talk about it how they talk about it at divinity school, but really in my personal life. But you see Dan dance away from it and refuse to answer it and all that sort of stuff. And just from picking up from other stuff, you just know that we are probably more Mormon than he is, all of us. Oh, well, Kevin is, but and it's just infuriating because he's doing we pulled up I think Kevin and I pulled it up before, the guy at the end of Salt Lake City Punk, who says that he can do more damage on the inside of the thing, of the system he knows than he can from the outside. And he's just totally obviously doing that. He's just trying to influence from the inside, or this is mind reading a little bit. He's either doing that, or because it's still useful to get elected into office. Because in Utah, you need to still say you're Mormon, and he still runs here.
Yeah, especially if you're a Democrat and you want to have any chance, you got to be Mormon.
Sir Stone says, just let the man LARP.
The power dynamic.
As a Mormon. Well, yeah, but I think it's political Machiavellianism. That's why we keep calling him Dan Machiavellian.
Yeah, I mean, I LARP as a Mormon. Like, I in that paper that Levitt said he wrote, I can't remember first name right now. Troy. I say in there, like, I have to state my philosophical assumptions for like the style of paper I wrote for a neuroscience kind of whatever. And in there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not active in believing, but like metaphysical ontological Mormonism is right. Sorry.
That's why he has that in his book. If you see the title of his book, it's like The Church is True. He's got true crossed out, but that true cross out doesn't. You want to explain what the cross out means? I mean, it's not.
It's church that's crossed out.
That's church is true.
Because the question is of what is true and how do you find truth, and it's not that. I mean, there are multiple reasons for it. One of the main ones is like, as an ex-Mormon, you can't fully erase the church and its effect and influence on you. You can only kind of strike it out. It's still always there, and there's still a lot of truth to it, and you have to accept it. But as part of like the philosophical Derridian aspect of the text, it's kind of included in what I just said. It's a part of the process that can't be denied. It was part of the whole process of getting you to discover what is true, whether it is the church still or is hallucinations I'm having now,
Nice. So I was going to talk about just let the man LARP. I would let the man LARP. It's just like a dash of honesty, like a dash of pretext is all I ask for. It's like, I mean, I guess he says it there. Like, I'm going to lean towards the critical theory stuff. It's just that he tries to smuggle it into the neutral truth of the universe.
I have no political biases. He said.
Well, he said that to us. We got him to say that directly to us. And it's just science. It's just facts. The facts just lean towards my political bias.
Yeah.
That silly guy. All right, listen to some of these paradoxes. Randall paradoxes. Mary Harrington has pointed to the paradox that the pill, we talked about the pill on Jacob's podcast, the pill has increased single motherhood. Like, single motherhood rates have increased since the pill.
Abortion rates have gone up because of the pill.
Abortion rates have gone up since the pill. Yeah. The wage gap increases happiness. They can test the different people, and if there's more of a wage gap between partners, they report higher levels of happiness.
Wow.
Equality between the sexes increases sexual dysfunction. These are just correlations, of course, not causations, unless they are causations. But these are some of the things. Those were in those Chris Williamson podcasts. But here's a couple other paradoxes that I saw listed out. Hold on one second. Do. Roku's basilisk. All right.
Oh, Roku's basilisk. Nice.
Yeah, I was talking about Roku's basilisk earlier. Troy brought it up too. You got to bring it out about the AI, or it'll know you didn't help bring it about. So you're stuck in needing to bring it about because it's going to come about or something like that. So, C.S. Lewis, originality is best attained via copying. Is that true?
Yeah.
I think it's true. Like you do like a sort of the music stuff. I mean, you got to copy
Just
for a
ask
while.
Led
and-
Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Zeppelin. Nietzsche says, compassion is a psyop designed by the weak to redirect resources from the most deserving to the least. That does kind of like sum up Nietzsche a little bit right there. And that might lead into a little bit of Christopher, you had thoughts on wanting to talk about what we were talking about, the Nihilism podcast last week.
Yeah.
Chesterton, you need to hate. Well, this sounds. Chesterton was a Catholic in the 1800s. He's the guy who, well, we know him from Chesterton's Fence, right?
Yeah, that's all I know about him.
He was also he was a bit of. I think he's the person that C.S. Lewis got the ideas of that Christian. You know how C.S. Lewis was into some sort of like a Christian socialism.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got the idea from Chesterton. Chesterton was a distributist, a Catholic distributist. You need to hate the world enough to change it, but love it enough to consider it worth changing. Action is the offspring of dark pessimism and frenzied optimism working in tandem. This is an interesting one from Napoleon. I think it's true, and I heard this the same from Louise Perry. She's says logic will lose you wars because sometimes the moment demands imaginative maneuvers that work because they are irrational. And Lee Perry, in that episode of Chris Williamson, she was talking a whole lot about like sexual and mate dynamics and how we rely on irrationality for a lot of that to work out, right? And so if we're trying to like get the world of pure logic, somebody pointed out that like not very smart people are way more sexually successful than autistic people as well. And that's kind of like a little bit pointing towards, if you're somebody who can't like play along the game. I remember I brought up Zizek before, and Zizek talks about to be sexually successful, you got to play along with the game of the coffee, that we're going up to the apartment for the coffee, and we're all gonna pretend like it's coffee that we're going up to this room for, right? And somebody who's going to be more on like the autistic side or the spectrum, they're just going to say, "Would you like to go up to my room for the sex?" You know, and or feel stupid and say, "I don't think I can just directly ask you up there because you're going to be obviously knowing that I'm just asking for sex. I'm not asking for a coffee. I'm asking for sex. You know that, right?" You know, and not actually go through with it and get up in their heads about that sort of stuff. So logic blocks it.
That's a really Taoist perspective. It's a little more absurdist than Taoism would have it conclude. But yeah, that's pretty.
So would the Taoists say run with the myth more, or would they say just speak directly to the hard truth of a thing, like the myth that there's coffee, the idea of going upstairs is coffee, or
whichever. So the part I was really saying where it becomes absurd, and maybe that helps answers the question, is Taoism wouldn't say it's because they're irrational, those maneuvers. They'd say because they're spontaneous. So how did you phrase the question?
Oh, I think you're answering right. I was asking like which part of it would sound like or how would a Taoist approach the concept of am I being obvious if I'm asking, if you're a young man who kind of leans towards just being overly truthful and you feel stupid saying, "Hey, come upstairs for coffee with me," when you know that you're just asking for something more direct when you're saying that, and you almost just feel like saying the more direct thing, which also fouls out.
Yeah, probably the best Taoistic approach would be to just not the like cliche thing that's go with the flow, but a quick analysis of what, kind of like a Zen koan, what emerges when that moment first plops into your experience, If it's the logical foul one, then that's just a moment in time for the next time you need to invite someone up for coffee. When that experience plops in spontaneously, you have that data point that can be analyzed again in real time in spontaneity, and you can maybe then ask for coffee and realize you shouldn't be so logical about it, or you could just say, hey, I'm logical, that's how I am even spontaneously, and figure out a way to just rephrase it so it doesn't flop. And that's a more Taoistic way to go with the flow across a larger span of time, not just in a single moment.
I saw a Mormon guy on Twitter, I forget which one, but he was kind of talking about the sexual revolution and how it made it harder to date. And that seems like a paradoxical thing. And I think what you're saying is true. And I think the sense that like you're in like a sexual revolution or something like that gives the feeling that if I go ask a female out, I'm basically asking her for sex. It's like you jump to the conclusion too fast.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Mormon world, or when you were a young Mormon, asking a gal out just seemed pretty easily like, hey, there's not pressure on this. We could go have some fun. And so it was easier to do it. Whereas it feels more of like
Not me. I was looking at sex from the get-go every time.
And the difference there, also very Taoistic in conclusion, is kind of Buddhist too. They'd say, you're clinging to something, but for probably like my linguistic of Taoism, it's that you've placed expectations on something, on the outcome to be sex. Whereas, young Mormons, the expectation is nil. It doesn't exist. The expectation, which isn't even the thought on your mind, is a date to go bowling or fucking whatever,
Yeah, the answer to both is kind of just get out of your head. And I think a lot of the different answers, if you saw the Jacob Hansen thing too, we were talking about, even just us and enlightened liberals, whatever, not believers, it's just getting out of the head. It's like we're too in the head. It's too navel gazy. We're too in there.
Mm-hmm.
Troy had a question for you, Kevin. Question for the Mormon panel. If a member openly said they didn't believe, but they still wanted to participate as if they did, is that better than closet disbelief?
I think so. Because I think it's honesty is the first off.
I don't think they got to expose themselves.
What's that?
I wouldn't think they have to expose themselves. I just think if they go and start,
but they got to be honest with themselves, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, first off, you got to be honest with yourself, because I think that the faith doesn't work if you're not honest with yourself in the beginning, anyway. So, that's my opinion. I mean, I might not be able to answer everything, and there may be a whole lot of like paradoxes, with the faith and all that stuff, but I can't answer. But I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? So, I think that, obviously there's utility in the culture and in associating, but I don't know. I'm kind of chill about it. You know what I mean? I'm just like, come hang out, but I don't know.
I think it's fine for Dan to go too. And I don't know. He probably.
I do too. I just don't think that it's cool to like be obviously acting out hypocrisy.
He probably behaves himself in his own ward, as far as we know.
Well, but I mean, but does he on Twitter though?
No. But
I'm not the.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should.
Righteousness on the internet, but
Yeah.
I'll admit,
I don't know if
just be honest about your personal beliefs.
And I don't know if it's really, in my perspective, about being honest or open about your beliefs or disbeliefs, as much as it should be a matter of analyzing or the utility you're getting from it. Because in my perspective, an actual belief in Mormonism or whatever religion is what down the line enacts moments of miracles had through faith. And if you don't have a belief in that, you're not getting much utility in certain aspects of your life that you're going to need later on, whether mystical, spiritual, or whatever. Even there might be a local immediate utility you're getting in some sort of sense of community, but that's an avoiding, you're not dropping out of yourself and following a line of belief that does and will have a purpose down the line, no matter what it is. If your belief is atheism, there's going to be a utility in that belief, that will be a turning point somewhere down the road in your life. It
I
just
think
will.
that like the utility of the idea of God, whether you take it literally or you don't. Let's take it for example, like as far as like the nation is concerned, you know what I mean? The idea of something up there that's above you and above everybody else that you have to reckon with. You know what I mean? And I think that idea is kind of also you just reckoning with yourself and being honest, because it takes all reasoning, all justification for, you know, for lying, for manipulating things. It takes the justification away for that.
So I don't know if anybody listened to the full interview that we did with Jacob Hansen all the way to the end, where he kind of started. I mean, I was admitting it seems that true belief is the thing that makes populations grow and thrive and have children, all that stuff. And he says, well, how about you? And I told him at the end, I said, I am as skeptical about me joining something for political reasons as I am Dan. Like the only way I could rejoin is if it's true belief. And I do, it does seem to be that it's true belief is the only thing that works, just like Christopher was saying right there. I think Kevin would say the same thing. It's like the belief comes with it. I just also think that there's, like Christopher Julie Rice is saying right there, you got to be honest about your beliefs. And the thing is, like, unless I truly believe, I'm not going to say that I do, you know, not for political reasons.
But that honesty really is really just, it's kind of your business. You know what I mean? It's not my bishop's business. I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. He's going to ask me that when he go get my temple recommend. But still, it's like, you know, you have, in my opinion, I have to take that and say, do I really feel that way? You know?
Yeah. But I think it's also different.
Myself and God first. So.
A bunch of people have mentioned this, that they go back because their family's there and there's all that stuff. And I totally understand all that sort of stuff too. They should, I think people should totally.
But I also got to say, it's not like I haven't been into those, you know, it's not like I haven't doubted. It's not like I haven't like questioned. I think that you should question things. God gave you a mind, you know, and he also gave you agency, which is like the major foundational doctrine in the church anyway. So like, use your agency, use your judgment. That's my opinion.
He said, Charles says, Troy's question describes me right now. I started going back because I missed being around the people who I share my values with, even if we don't share the same religious beliefs. It's been a good experience so far. Steve says that for a long time, I pretty much fake belief and finally being more honest lately. Chesterton, they will find, this is our Moodle 45, they will find only one divinity who ever uttered their isolation, only one religion in which God seemed for an instant to be an atheist. Zizek talks about this quote with JBP. Oh, I remember that, yeah. Mormon dating expectations at BYU were to a degree eternal marriage. So that could be high pressure too on a different end of it. But I'm saying at least first dates weren't like, or at least you didn't feel like you were asking somebody something lewd or something like that.
Yeah, we were talking in our chat this
Ayan Hersey Ali converting is a good or bad thing. I don't know like what level of belief. I mean, it seems like a political decision.
Yeah, I wonder. Like, I mean, is she born again? Did she have an encounter with Christ? Is that what she means, or is she adopting Christianity as her philosophy?
I've got some extra black pill stuff about Spengler to tell you about, because if that was the guy who just kind of cataloged what happened in all these different civilizations, in each one of them, he also cataloged something he called second religion. And what second religion was him describing kind of this experience of realizing we're losing it, so let's go try to grab it back again. And that still just being kind of like too little too late. Like he was pointing out to like, no, it's got to be the original real deal true belief. And but that's speaking on a political end of stuff. But I don't know. It's there's some sort of level of Spengler who is also kind of talking about things in a historicist way, that stuff must always go like that. And I don't necessarily buy into that, just like I don't with the Marxists. Like, just because it went that way once doesn't mean it always has to go that way. And but what's his name? One of those playwright who wrote I forget. He's a Jewish playwright, but he says the Bible isn't something that happened; it's something that happens. And so there's all these sorts of ideas about like the cyclical ideas. I'll remember his name in a second. He wrote that play of Coffees for Closers. You guys know the movie Coffees for Closers.
Glenn Garrigan, Glenn Ross.
Glenn Garrigan Ross, who's the David Mamet says that.
There we go.
And anyway, but all that stuff kind of like points to the idea of like cycle of pride stuff and all those sorts of deal. And then there's some sort of idea that sort of idea, or like the Christian story of like the whole telos of the entire universe, kind of leans towards like a Hegelian, like there's an answer to this historicist arc to everything. And I don't know if there's like something we can change or steer away or go a different direction on stuff, make it different this time. And we also kind of criticize and point out that a lot of people think that the tech will make it different this time. But at the same time, Mary Harrington says, well, I'll pull up what she says. Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic if you want to read the next one or whatever. Chateaubriand, I don't even know that guy. Can you see the screen?
Beauty is.
Oh, Camille Paglia, read that one. That's a good one. Camille Paglia.
Liberalism defines government as tyrant father, but demands it behave as nurturant mother. Society must be so tyrannical that you could be protected from mean tweets, but also so permissive that you should be able to change your gender and back.
Yeah. So
I don't believe in progress.
That's it right there.
I don't believe in progress. I don't. People sometimes look a bit shocked when I say this. But why? It's not self-evident that humans have progressed in some absolute sense. That doesn't mean everything was perfect once, and we're all going to hell in a handbasket. But pick a subject, and you'll find some things are better, while other things have become worse. If you're going to believe in progress, you have to define what you mean. More stuff, more freedom, less disease. Pick any subject, and you'll find that what looks from one vantage point like progress mostly seems that way because you're ignoring the costs.
So this episode on Symposia, it's called Rewilding Sex. And she talks again a bit about like the concept of like the pill has unwilded sex, and then there's all sorts of trade-offs for that. Like it's not just like some answer. And I mentioned with Jacob Hansen that she talked about how the pill is like the first bit of transhumanism, where we broke something that was working for our own desires. But she also kind of talks about how something Chris Williamson and Louise Perry, they talked about lower testosterone drives in men, and they pulled up somebody who links that. They say men's testosterone drive, their testosterone count might be linked to the fertility of women, and the fact that all the women are running around on the pill all the time might be one of the reasons all of our testosterone's down. We're still figuring this stuff out. We're still far away from figuring out what exactly pill.
Dumping the pills in the water supply for decades.
Oh yeah, and that messes stuff up. And then they talk about all the other stuff in our food and whatever might be dropping our T levels and all that sorts of stuff. But she also talks about, she thinks that like some of like the big time BDSM stuff comes from, you don't get the thrill out of having possible babies when you're having sex. And so like the concept of putting taking away the possibility of some sort of danger like that is making people seek out more danger.
BDSM with consent.
Yeah. But I don't know. I like this one by Camille Paglia, where she says like, you know, that's another thing of like that whole progressive thing is like everything's got to be completely nerfed, yet at the same time agree to any, like it's a paradox that doesn't line up. Nothing makes sense, man. And like we have the pill and we have the sex, and all sex is free and whatever. And in the midst of that, it feels like we're becoming Islam. Like how does that happen at the same time? You know,
Sex is the least free thing, like, and it always will be.
Yeah, I don't think you can undo it with any sort of techno nothing. But
Remember, like 10 years ago, when I had a roommate that was PhD in intersectional feminism, and this was like when I was first learning about what the whole intersectional critical theory angle was about. And I remember, like, so we're talking about pornography, because she's talking about like, oh, it oppresses women, blah 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 blah. I remember saying, like, well, I think the real fantasy of pornography, because like, it's not like, that's not special effects. Like, people can do those things if they want to. The fantasy of pornography is sex without consequences. And I remember that she was completely baffled by that concept, and like, she just couldn't see past the, like, no, power dynamics, patriarchy shit. And I'm like, no, like, that's what the fantasy is.
I think it's just another Sowell thing. Just they're sure, you can be free, sure you can choose this, sure you can choose that, but there's no perfect unconsequenced world. There's only a trade-off. There's only a trade-off. You're only going to have a trade-off for one thing or another, whichever route you choose to go.
Like, girls can go and get gangbanged, but just gonna be known as
just know what you're trading off. And
isn't that the same thing as polyamory?
Yeah, I mean, if people
is that not the same? Is that not the same fantasy there?
For sure. And the thing is too, is like, I mean, if people choose it, I think that's whatever. It's just some people go into it knowingly know what they're maybe trading off. I think other people don't know well what they're trading off there.
No, they don't.
And Delin and all those guys talk endlessly about consent and consent culture and all that sorts of stuff. And I could see any sort of sexual revolutionary stuff being, I mean, us as generally, I don't know what you call it, libertarian leaning would, I wouldn't put any sort of state thing in to stop anybody from doing anything. I would just say, hey, random person, just know that you're making possible trade-offs. And if you choose that, you choose that.
Like, I mean, sure, I don't believe that, like, polyamory is cosmically, ontologically wrong, whatever, like, because I'm an atheist, I don't, whatever. But, like, that doesn't mean that it's without consequences, that it's not, like, wrong for you, it's not wrong for your life, that it's not wrong for your future. It can still be very, very wrong, just like Moses didn't have to carry it down carved on a piece of rock for it to be wrong.
Yeah. Well, something that Louis Perry says is that usually what comes from sexually lewd times, like antinomian times, like anti-rule, anti-sort of stuff times, usually what comes from that is nomian times. And so one of the things you see is kids are leaning more conservative generally, they're saying. But one of the reasons the kids are leaning more conservative, once again, is who's having the babies, But they could also still just like catch whatever bug as they grow up. But usually what comes from antinomianism is a swing back to nomianism. But for the first time ever, thanks to tech, that might all be scrambled up. Like the typical swings might not happen anymore. And we're kind of in like a no man's land because of all of our biohacking and our computer stuff. And who knows if we can count on the typical.
We may call it a nomian man's land.
Yeah.
Heard here first, folks.
I like that. Nomian man's land. That could be the name of a podcast. Or nomian or antinomian, whichever one you want to pick. Yeah. Antinomian man's land. How do you pronounce that name? Chateaubriand? Oh, I think that's what it is. I think I have heard that.
It just says it perfectly.
Yeah.
Beauty is useless if you care for efficiency, but shockingly useful if you care for lovability. Yes, beauty is wasteful luxury, but ultimately the only thing people will protect and make pilgrimages to. Yeah. Great writing dances at the border of mysterious and obvious. Too mysterious and you're inaccessible. Too obvious and you're boring. I think
that's like music, man.
I can't say that. Oh, I could probably Rochefoucauld. That's a Foucault again, man.
Yeah.
You ever heard of like the other Foucault? The other Foucault is the guy who like proved the curvature of the Earth with his like Foucault's dangling thing. Have you seen that thing?
Oh yeah. They got
that's
a
another
huge
guy
one
named
over
Foucault.
at the planetarium.
I also heard this week that the person who came up with the concept of the Great Replacement theory was Camus, and I was like, "What? Camus said that?" And I looked it up, and it was
right-wing extremist.
It was a different Camus. Man, these Frenchies. Like, I never know if I come across a French name. Like, is Foucault basically like Smith in France?
Yeah, I
Like
wondered, I
Potter?
was just wondering about that. What does that mean?
You come across a lot of Foucaults in the Frenchies, and then maybe a lot of Camus. I guess that's Smith around there. Absence diminishes small loves and increases great ones. As the wind blows out the candle and fans the bonfire, time will kill everything shallow and deepen everything real. So Julius Evola is another man. Julius Evola is a strange guy. He's kind of like a post-fascist writer in the sense of, you know how you have like the Marxists who say that wasn't real Marxism? He's the guy who says that wasn't real fascism. Like they didn't fascist enough. But he is critical of them. He is critical of like the death and stuff that they caused or whatever. But he says it's because you did the fascism wrong. You know, that wasn't real fascism. But he says a democracy has hurt the demos people the most by disempowering their natural superiors. It is not the superior who has the need of the inferior, but the inferior who has the need of the superior. It is not the master that has need of the minion. It is the minion that has need of the master. So let's steelman that. Like, is that 100% true, or is that one not true, or is that true, or is it yes? I don't know.
So I looked it up. Foucault comes from ancient Germanic elements of folk, people, and Wald, rule. People rule. There you go. That's what Foucault means.
But is it common as Smith?
I don't know if it's as common as Smith, but yeah, it's a very old French name. I mean, that sounds like it. Like a lot of these Germanic names, like mean that same kind of thing. Like it might be the same thing as like because you know like Charles, Carl, Charles, Carol. All of those are all an old Germanic word for a freeborn man. That's just all that.
Yeah, it
means.
always trips me out when you come across a name that's an equivalent for another name that at first you go, what? And then after a minute you kind of think about it and see it.
Yeah.
But I can't think of one off the top of my head. What's the final paradox right there? High IQ is a terrifying gift. The ability to predict the consequences of any action means your will gets lost in a labyrinth of hypothesis. Kevin and I, when we played in a band together, we used to call this paralysis by analysis. And that's why we could never get anywhere with that. But it's true. Have you guys ever heard of a band called Taylor Swift?
It's come up in the BBC. I don't know what it is, and I can't name any of its songs.
You can't name a single Taylor Swift song?
Didn't she do something that's like look at?
Oh, there's the Never Getting Back Together one. I know that one. Never, never, never.
I think
Back
yeah.
Together.
Sort of never. I know there's like look what you made me do.
Oh,
I think that's all the Swift I know.
Isn't that Britney Spears? Wait, no. Britney Spears had one that was like the same
I
word.
thought they had a war. Didn't they have a pop diva fight?
Did Britney Spears and Taylor Swift have a fight?
We are not in our wheelhouse anymore.
Was it Katy Perry? I think Taylor Swift and Katy Perry had a diva fight.
This would be a good YouTube channel of having a flip describe pop fights. It'd be a bit like Drunk History.
It would be. Oh my gosh.
Flip telling us about fights between pop.
Because the thing is, like everything I know about Taylor Swift, I learned from the BBC, and that's where I remember this stuff from.
Now do the beef between Nas and Jay-Z.
I don't know if BBC didn't cover it. BBC's fucking racist.
You didn't know that? Well, that one's like 20 years ago. Before
Yeah,
that,
it was. It's an old one.
Oh,
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure the Katy Perry Taylor Swift one is also like
the
10 years old.
BBC was a much better news organization 20 years ago. That's what's going on there.
Well, the reason I asked is because that's the only thing interesting I got out of this claymation episode here.
Oh, I didn't watch the claymation one.
You didn't?
No.
You're the missing out. You're the missing out.
Because I was sleeping.
After you started it?
Yes.
I do like sleeping.
Oh.
Doing claymation?
Yeah, but I don't know that anything was interesting in it except that these guys are major Taylor Swift fans.
Yeah, what are we talking about? I don't even know what we're talking about. Claymation.
You don't know about the claymation and the Zelfs? They made a claymation episode
with AI, or did they actually animate?
It's got to be with AI because, like, towards the end, both their mouths would be talking when one voice was going, so it's got to be like linked up through some AI thing.
Taylor Swift's artistry and her ability to.
Oh yeah, that's AI.
Like, she has made such a brand for herself, but you can't pull off a show like that without huge amounts of people working together with that common
Look at this. The Swift is mentioned 19 times.
vision, and she integrates the talents of so many people, and I think that's part of her artistry. And
it's so funny, isn't it? Because I feel like a lot of people will kind of be like, oh, do you think that she did all that herself? Or like, I remember growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, it was a big deal where the pop stars wrote their own songs, as if just like their skills as performers are not worth something alone. Like, some of the best songwriters are not performers. That's just the way
better
it goes.
songwriters
are
the,
like all good artists are good collaborators.
They also say that
so dumb.
Ed Sheeran's a good rapper.
Yeah, that's why Frank Sinatra pretended to write that shit. That's why they all carefully crafted the weird idea that Frank Sinatra was actually the guy behind all that. Is that right?
I saw something with her with a banjo for 5 seconds, and she was just using it as something to dance with and was faking playing, and I lost my mind. And
yeah, like I just see the stills of her on this tour holding a guitar, and I'm like, just no fucking way. Just no fucking way is that plugged into anything.
I bet she knows a C chord.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying she doesn't know how to play guitar. I'm just saying, like, the way those shows are choreographed and shit. Like,
she's not playing when that's going on, no.
Yeah, no.
But to her credit, neither is Coldplay.
Yeah, no, because that's things like, frankly, like, I mean, I wouldn't expect her to, like, all that dancing and choreography and shit. Like, you can't play the guitar when you're doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember I was watching a Coldplay concert because I was checking them out. So this is like before I knew him. Like, everybody's like, gotta check out Coldplay, and I was watching it, and I saw him singing this perfect note at the top of his lungs, running full speed sprint across the giant stage. And,
yeah.
As soon as the song ended, he said, "Thank you very much." And it's just like, no,
I have seen Steven Tyler do that though.
What's that?
I have seen Steven Tyler do that though.
You can hear it,
not at a full sprint. Like, I'm telling you, like, this is like a 50-yard sprint.
And you can hear, you can hear the live.
And it's perfect sound. Yeah.
Like you said,
Jonathan Streeter's going to see U2, and U2 is famous. Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because U2 is famous for having a lot of computers backing them up.
When you get to like a certain like top 40 level, I think they almost all do that, a little bit of that faked playing live, especially when they get to stadium stuff.
Yeah,
whatever that sort of thing that happened when you've seen it kind of. Actually, I saw Kiss recently just got caught. They had their audio start skipping at a live large concert. I could probably pull that up.
Who was it? I don't even remember. There's some 80s butt metal band with a legendary guitar player, and somebody leaked what sounds like not only is a click track, but it also is like a robotic voice telling him the songs. Like it's like total, it's dementia AI click track for aging rock guitarist is what it sounded like. Because yeah, it gave him all kinds of cues and the clicks and everything. Yeah, and it was all very
The old
embarrassing.
speak and spell voice.
Yeah, basically.
Will I get a strike for playing a Kiss concert on the?
Yes, Gene
I will?
Simmons will personally. He
Oh
is.
yeah, he sucks, huh?
Yeah, he sucks. Gigantic donkey balls.
Dang,
That's one thing I like.
Well,
Is
look
there's
up
a whole.
Kiss, because like they've had a couple times where their live concerts pulled an Ashley Simpson. You remember when Ashley Simpson had it go nuts on?
Oh
stage?
yeah, on SNL. They
Yeah.
played the wrong track. That's right.
Just think about this, man. If Milli Vanilli had been just born in the right era, like nobody would care right now. if that
You know what's
Milli Vanilli
funny?
thing
Like
went down.
I years ago on one of my dumb Wikipedia walks, I read all about Milli Vanilli, and actually, like if you read the Wikipedia article in the history of them, they actually got a really bad deal. Like
Oh, yeah.
it was their shitty producer that like dragged them through all this, and like because they started out like as actual performers and stuff. And like, and they never wanted to go down the road that they ended up going down. And like, yeah, when you hear them tell it, and like, yeah, they got fucking hoodwinked by a shitty, shisty producer.
Yeah, if you guys want to see it, like look up Kiss Foucault's pendulum. Thanks, Steve. That's what it was.
There it is,
Foucault
yeah.
was the one who put those pendulums. Just like look up on the YouTube Kiss and their tracks filling. Yeah, both of them kind of happened recently.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's pretty embarrassing.
The other thing
Mm.
that is an entire genre of YouTube video is celebrities shitting on Gene Simmons, just telling stories about meeting him in real life, and that he's like one of the most universally despised people in show business.
Oh yeah, he supposedly like goes for every cash deal ever.
Yeah, no, like one thing that I do kind of respect about him, because I remember like in the 90s seeing an interview with him where he talked about it's like, no, when I made Kiss, it was entirely business motivated. Like every decision I made was and I appreciate that he was just totally open about it. You know, just as like, no, like that I wanted to make money in a rock band, and I like put all the pieces together in like this total Machiavellian way. And good for him. He was honest about it.
I don't know. It looks like Taylor Swift's popularity is a sign of societal decline. Looks like she's part of the decline of the West. Everything points to decline. No.
She killed a lady in Brazil because of the temperature.
What?
Mm-hmm.
There's a record heat wave going on in Brazil, and then a fan apparently died of heat stroke while waiting in line for a concert in Brazil.
Mm.
Yeah.
These guys call it "She's the rise of me" music, and I mean, there's me music before her, but
Yeah,
I don't
like,
know.
like what are they talking about? No, that's
I don't know. It's a
kind of old news. Me
I didn't read the
music.
whole thing, but I think it kind of gets into asking the question of like, why her and why is she like the only pop star right now that's that big? I don't know. Like when we were young, there was 20 bands that were as popular, but
Yeah.
now there's like one, and it's her, and then everything else is just completely spread out. And
Yeah, like it seems like this
Taylor
tour
Swift
is.
psyop.
What was that?
It's the Taylor Swift psyop.
What is it?
Oh.
Like what?
I
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's the new thing going around. It's like,
'cause
we've been trying
now-
to warn you the Taylor Swift thing is a psyop.
Is
but
it
I
working
don't
if
know.
we
It's
don't
what-
know about it, and the only people that do are Sam and that guy?
Maybe. No, I don't think they've said it's a psyop, but I've read it recently, but I haven't looked at the details. But part of it, I mean, I think over a year ago, you and I were talking about like music stuff, and there was a video. I don't know if you sent it to me or I sent it to you, but it was this gentleman talking about about me music, and Taylor Swift was involved, and about how over the last few years why it has been slowly shrinking down to just a few artists, and now maybe even fucking just her.
Yeah, it's just her.
Yeah, is
And you too, I
because
guess it's still going, but
it's not just that it is me music, but it is musically structured to be emotionally manipulative.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
almost
what
like
most
it's AI
artists
written.
are doing within the past 15 years, and it's really been dialed in by a few. And maybe there's a psyop on top of it now because she's become the one who's been the most successful at emotionally manipulative music and advertising it all at the same time. She's been really great at self-promotion and advertising her shtick since 1989, honestly.
And some people think
she
that
may have been a
her dating
singer.
the football guy is a psyop too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he
Yeah, that's the other
is.
thing. It's like, I mean, if you imagine, like, would you, what would, that's not real life. Like, if to date her, like, even if you're already a football star, you're still close enough to real life that you can go live your real life.
Mhm.
Like, if you're dating Taylor Swift, like, I mean, you're basically royalty at that point. Like, your days of going out to get a bag of chips at the 7-Eleven are done, right?
Yeah.
She's says Taylor Swift, Lucifer incarnate. The masses are hooked. Sir Stoner says all the female NPCs of this generation of the simulation were pre-programmed with Taylor Swift lyrics, and it's her lyrics. She's the goddess of this world. She rules the longhouse.
Yeah.
That is correct. I don't know if you can't see that. You probably can't see that on the screen, it looks like, but somebody asked ChatGPT to create an image of a man doing his own research about COVID. And ChatGPT said, I'm unable to generate such images. And then it says, why? It says the content policy for image generation restricts creating images that could be interpreted as spreading misinformation or depicting. Anyway, some people point to that Travis Kelce is the Pfizer, like the main Pfizer spokesperson, the guy that she started dating.
Really?
And some people are like, that's all the big psyop of that too. Yeah. What's his
How
name?
much-
Aaron Rodgers
I mean,
called him Mr. Pfizer.
He's a tight end for the Chiefs. He's got a sponsorship deal with Pfizer.
Yeah. Yep.
That's weird.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That
He's
is
like the main
weird.
spokesperson of them too. And Travis Kelce.
I want to see him doing ads for like hilarious.
We'll probably get kicked off. There it is. Travis Kelce star in a Pfizer commercial. Should we watch it? Or
Oh my God.
We'll get booted for it. And this is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, is the guy who got in trouble for not taking the vaccine in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
He calls him Mr. Pfizer.
Oh, what? And didn't he break his ankle 3 minutes into his
3 plays into the new season? Yeah.
Psyop. They broke his ankle using FBI
Jason Kelce
conspiracy
involved?
power.
No, he has a podcast.
Oh,
he has a podcast with Travis Kelce.
Really? Yes, he does.
Called the New Heights Podcast. Travis Kelce was a member of this show yesterday, not here, but certainly a character.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that thing certainly made its way around the internet, and we had no idea that was coming. And boy, got a good pop out of me. That was a solid joke.
Great. It's a great joke.
It was a solid joke. Now, obviously, there's people on the internet that did not appreciate the way Aaron cracked a joke at Travis's expense because of a vaccine, especially with Aaron.
Sure.
Working
This
for
is on
Johnson & Johnson
ESPN,
currently in the
yeah.
New York Jets. So, which, by the way, in the moment, as he says
you
that,
gonna get hit
we all
for this?
realize all those things are going to happen.
That's right. You might. I know it's a podcast, but that's
If
a
it's
good point. This is
ESPN,
owned by
yeah.
Disney now too. Huh? Ow! Stop!
Yeah, no,
Ah.
I told you it's all an interconnected psyop leading to Taylor Swift.
Man.
Yeah.
Someone says it's a Cyclops psyop. That better not get a thing. That stupid thing.
It's a little creepy where it's like, how is it YouTube can knock our dumb little harmless bullshit off the web for the most tangential copyright restriction, right? So that's where the technology is. How come they can't catch like criminals and like pedophiles and stuff?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Like
Well,
why?
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It's just it seems crazy.
Hey, look at this. I want to see Princeton University's DEI office. Here's the Dean for Diversity and Inclusion Office of the Vice Presidents for the campus. Pronouns she, her, her. Eric R. Anglero. Associate Director, Sexuality Resource Center, Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Pronouns they, them.
Wait, is it she, her, Ella, or Aya?
Erica Avalos is an Aya, it looks like.
But do we know that? What
I
if we?
don't know.
What if we assume wrong? Is that a microaggression?
We've got April S.
Are you
Callis,
white?
assistant dean. I mean, this is the Longhouse, folks. You wanted the Longhouse. This is the long. This is all Taylor Swift lyrics leads to. This is the Longhouse. April S. Callis, assistant dean, Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Campus Life, director of gender. You know what? Every single one of these guys make like $200,000 a year.
Like she, they. That's another really dick move where it's like you're mixing. Like
I've got to know your plural, but not your singular.
They, he.
What? Grace M. Davis.
She, they, and they, he.
But why is the they there and the he there?
And it's Grace, and that's the Gender Plus Sexuality Resource Center.
Contact me for support for women and femme identifying folks programming and co-sponsorship.
Wait,
opportunities.
the pronouns he is the support for femme identity. God damn it.
Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion. Kevin and I looked up what these guys make one time. Like we pulled it from a couple different different schools, and like these departments. I think it like University of Michigan wasn't even as big as this place. It was like $13 million a year in the DEI department. Jess L. Norton.
No
Education and
pronouns.
Outreach
Instead,
Program
please use my
Coordinator.
name.
No pronouns. Instead, please use my name. Okay.
Did
Leah
Jess L. Norman
Rodriguez.
come to work today? No, Jess L. Norman didn't come to work today. Jess L. Norman called on Jess L. Norman's phone to say that Jess L. Norman's car is broken and that Jess L. Norman will like. That's what she expects people to fucking do.
As you were saying that, my brain was glitching halfway through.
Like seriously,
saying
think about
English?
trying to say like instead of pronouns, use my name every time. Fuck you. Those are your pronouns now.
Wait, look at this.
Fuck her. I hope she never comes to work again.
Leah Rodriguez, she, her, hers. Leah Rodriguez, I'm gonna ask Leah Rodriguez out. You know, send her a message, say, hey, want to go on a date with me? Let's like everything aligns over there. MJ Scafiro, pronouns she, her, hers. Contact me for support. LGBTQ plus, identifying folks, programming and censorship opportunities. There's a male there. How long till before they Me Too him?
Dude,
And he goes by he, him, his. Oh, my
Oh,
goodness,
geez.
dude, your days are Me Too
He's
numbered.
the token. Let's apply.
Position
for that.
vacant. Should I send an application? Student transitioning and mentoring program coordinator. I'm gonna send an application. I'm gonna send an application in. Victoria Yu, associate director. That lines up too. Underrepresented students. All right. I'm right.
That's amazing.
So she represents white men.
Yeah, that's her job.
Look at this. The Washington Post is in dire
I've covered an insurrection,
a global pandemic,
historic racial justice protests, climate change, and gun violence in America.
I work hard to make sure you know exactly what's going on in our DC community.
To hold powerful institutions to account.
And to bring you the latest visuals from around the globe.
And I'm worth a fair and transparent pay process. I'm worth
I'm worth raises that keep up with inflation.
I'm worth equal pay to my colleagues, regardless of my race or gender.
I'm worth job protections that value my years of service.
We've been in contract negotiations for 18 months.
And our bosses have refused to bargain in good faith.
They have failed to offer us a fair deal that keeps pace with the economy and our competitors.
So on Thursday, I'm walking. I am walking off the job
For 24 hours.
With hundreds of my Washington Post colleagues.
because we're worth more.
Worth more.
Worth more.
Worth more than what the company is offering.
If you love Washington Post journalism and the people who make it,
You can support us by
Sending a letter to our publisher through the link in our caption or our bio.
and respecting our picket line by avoiding Washington Post journalism during our 24-hour walkout.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for standing with Washington Post employees.
Go to hell.
Yeah.
Do it for a lot longer than 24 hours.
Yeah.
You have my support.
Why'd they pick Pearl Harbor Day? That's weird. That's funny. I was at work today. I was thinking about this Like I don't know why it popped into my mind because I mean it's Pearl Harbor Day. It's like because I say like, oh, do you think they'll do a Pearl Harbor reenactment in Hawaii this morning? And everybody laughed. It's like, but I'm like, we do Civil War reenactments. Why is that like fine? And why couldn't we do a Pearl Harbor reenactment? And
Are we going to do a 9/11 reenactment next year?
yeah, I mean, sure. Like I was thinking about that. Like, yeah, like what if we do like Black Hawk Down Somalia reenactments?
Only with
all the kids.
Did I
Only
tell
with the
you
best
about? Oh, I
accent.
wanted to get into this stuff. Did I tell you about Black Hawk Down and how bad the accents were in that? Like that might be the mother lode of bad accents in Hollywood. It's got Orlando Bloom, Ewan McGregor.
yeah.
It is the mother lode. The dad of Malfoy is in it. Tom Hardy's in it. They're all playing these Americans who are supposed to be Southern Marines. Who yeah, I'm here to fight for the United States of America and Black Hawks. Who yeah. Yeah, it's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
It's an otherwise okay movie. Like
I actually
about
haven't
Black
seen
Hawk.
it either.
You got to see it just for how bad the accents were. I was like, whoa. The Malfoy's dad, the guy who plays Malfoy's dad in it. He's like, and then there's even like 4 or 5 other no-namers that I don't even need to look it up that I know that they're not Americans. Hello there, soldier. Are you ready to go home? Do you miss your girlfriend? Yeah,
It's weird seeing that like in a bigger budget movie. Like, it's one thing you see a lot nowadays is like you're watching a show that's supposed to be like I just like with Netflix where they're making a million shows all the time. But I always like the thing where like 45 seconds into a show, you're like, oh, these are all Canadians. This was made in Canada, and it's supposed to be like Texas or whatever. It'd be like, oh, it's obviously Toronto.
I think it's tough. They can probably do American accents, but it was tough asking them to do like Southern Marine accent stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just so. Oh, Eric Bana. Eric Bana is also in it. That Australian. Like it's just like straight non-Americans in that movie, and not one of them can do an English accent well. Like, it's so bad. Like watch the whole movie. You'll get a laugh a minute in that one. I wanted to talk about Julia Child. I've been telling you guys about the Julia Child.
Oh yeah.
Ranting about it. Man, that is such crap. They're lying their butts off.
The clips that you sent.
I don't know if I can show that because I took like tapes of it too, and HBO would probably take it down as well.
For sure.
But Julia Child season 2 is back on course of lying their arses off about stuff. They say so. First, I mean, I don't know how you don't just rage at this if you're the actual person who produced the Julia Child show, because that guy is still alive and he's there in the show. His name is Russ Morash. He's the guy who produced Julia Child's show in the 80s. So they've invented a black woman who did not exist, and they're saying, they openly state and say that they're saying that she was the actual producer of the show and he took credit for it. And it is not true whatsoever. They don't play it up that he's doing it like evil guy. He's doing it like, oh, gee, why are they crediting me type stuff guy. But they're giving her the credit for it. And there's all these scenes about her being like, I'm the one who's leading this whole WGRB, whatever, in Boston into the future with Mr. Rogers and all this stuff. She's like the hero of the whole thing. And then they put on there that right after the Julia Child show, which I used to watch on PBS in the 80s as a kid, we all used to watch it. We'd catch it here and there because there was only so many options, but still there was something about Julia Child that was mesmerizing.
There's like Saturdays, like there's a period like Saturdays morning after the cartoons were gone. There was like a golden period of BYU and KUER where they would show the cooking shows, and like Frugal Gourmet, Jan Can Cook, Julia Child would all be in that Saturday like afternoon block. And that's
Frugal Gourmet insisted that they were on right after Thundercats.
Worked for me. And then you'd catch Bob Ross.
Worked for him too.
Yeah.
We all caught this stuff. So this show acts like this same non-existent black producer put on a show by women for women. It was called that, by women for women, about abortion. about abortion that came on right after Julia Child's show. And I'm like, I don't remember this show. You know? They're sitting there showing it, and it's like so groundbreaking. Everybody's like, this is so great and groundbreaking. This is so good. And then they finally come to her and say, we can't keep doing this show. It's too far above, it's too far ahead of its time. And then after she gets that show canceled, all of this is imaginary. It's all fan fiction.
Yeah.
She calls the whole channel and all the people in it racist for not letting that show go on. This whole imagined thing. And they have this whole episode where one of the ladies runs around France with Sartre, as Sartre is waiting outside of the room where Simone de Beauvoir is inside the room boinking her boyfriend, which they don't mention that if it was Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, it was probably an underage person. But they were waiting outside. Sartre was talking her out of the concepts of monogamy and how goofy Americans were for all that sorts of stuff. And I'm like, this never happened, dude. Like the whole entire thing is just fan fiction, this lie, and it drives me so crazy because Julia Child is a woman who did awesome stuff. It would be awesome to see a story about a woman who was awesome doing awesome stuff. And don't get me started too as well, that the main lady is British. Luckily, she doesn't try to do an Orlando Bloom accent or a Eric Bana accent or a who else did I say? Ewan McGregor accent. None of them can speak. She doesn't even try. She just it's Hyacinth. It's Hyacinth from Keeping Up with Appearances. And if that's Julia Child, I'm Richard Simmons. Like, come on, man. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so ridiculous. But you guys have watched anything that's like crazy, stupid fan fiction?
I don't. That's things like I keep watching classics. I just keep going back to the good stuff.
You can't get into the new things in the world of.
I have a hard time with it.
Me too.
I'm watching the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. That's pretty.
Oh, that came out new one. Is the new one that they put in a woman in Maker Lane?
No, it's just regular old Aqua Teens.
Wow.
Put a chicken and make her gay.
It's not. You gotta wait. It's still coming. But Fargo season 5. I won't go into crazy detail about this, but that's a bust too. But I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's Home Alone. It's Home Alone with a mousy girl boss who is in place of Kevin. That's Fargo season 5 for you. If that doesn't interest you, I don't know what will interest you. Holy crap, stuff sucks. But I still think that we're getting like scripts that were approved in 2020 mid-year. You know, and oh my gosh, it's bad. But I will not get a Julia Child show now that's good because they did this fan fiction fake one. Like I would love a Julia Child show that's good, but like what are the chances of that ever happening now? You know? Oh my gosh, it irritates me. What have you guys been watching lately? Keon, what have you been watching?
Nothing.
What's Slow Horse?
I've been watching hockey. So
you're still gonna watch Cloud Atlas. That's the Wachowski.
Oh wait, you're a hockey fan.
Yeah.
They're gonna. I saw that. The NHL is its own thing, but they're gonna make hockey players wear neck guards because of that guy.
Oh yeah.
In England, that got killed by that guy.
I
And
didn't
but he got that guy got arrested for manslaughter, and I can't say I disagree. Like when you watch
that.
What was he thinking?
Did you see the clip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that,
I mean,
that's like
straight up. It was a straight up karate kick. I mean.
Yeah, like it's not a natural hockey movement.
Anybody in hockey with their foot, you know.
Yeah.
In their neck, you know.
No, and I'm sure the guy feels like a jackass now. Like I don't think he's, you know.
The weird thing is that it's like, he's a dirty player, and that's the thing is they. I mean, it's well.
Well, I like how they. Oh, I haven't looked into it after that because in the BBC was like doing a man was arrested. His identity has not been released. Well,
They
like,
didn't-
except that he was on TV and he had like a number on his shirt that told us who he was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, all the media outlets were like, for some reason, protecting his identity, but like everybody knew who he
Have
was.
you tried this new anti-slice technology that's taking the golf world by storm?
What's he doing?
I don't know. Anyway, so
yeah,
I've kind of gotten more into hockey. I grew up playing. Well, I mean, I started playing in junior high, but I played all through high school, and my kids play. They were playing. My son, who's a junior this year, decided they didn't want to play, which sucks because I enjoyed watching him. But yeah, of my 6 kids, I had 2 that played, and really ended up only being 1, and now that 1 is not playing, and so. But
that's lame. Because that's like, it's not like there's not. It's an expensive thing, right? There's not like a school hockey league. Like, it's a real.
Yeah, there is. I
there?
I played for Murray. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Murray was kind of.
But it's a club sport, so.
Yeah.
Did you guys say that that
needs a lot more
nerfing hockey?
What?
Did you say they're nerfing hockey?
No, they're mandating neck guards because that guy who died in England, because that guy made that maniac karate kick move on him.
Yeah.
Well, this year they've kind of just as far as like with wokeness, because last year they were like shoving it down everybody's throat, and they got pushed back and all that stuff. One of the Philadelphia Flyers,
didn't do it.
Wouldn't do it. But so they've kind of overcorrected this year, and now players can't wear anything that supports any cause at all.
Yeah.
So like they can't do like breast cancer awareness night or kind of thing, and wear pink jerseys. But it was funny because there was I think it was Minnesota Wild, the goalie, who is a Native American, someone had made him a like a custom mask that had like indigenous like artwork on it and stuff like that, and he got in trouble because he wasn't supposed to wear it, but he decided he was like, screw that, I'm going to wear it. And so like it's just kind of come back, the pendulum kind of came back the other way. It's just like you can't do anything of your own accord anymore.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I'm just watching the sport, so.
Yeah.
Christopher, you're into musical theater, right? Did you hear some of the shows coming out that are reboots? They're turning them into musicals. They're gonna make Mean Girls a musical, and they're gonna make The Color Purple a musical.
I did see this. I stopped paying attention a while ago. I joked that musical theater was the second cult I escaped, especially here in Utah. But I'm appalled at those kind of choices. Theater, what is happening to Hollywood now and has been happening for the past 5 to 7 years is exactly what happened to Broadway. It's uncanny.
Yeah, I heard some people talk about it. Wow, what's his name? Shoot, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had several musical theater people who were speaking out about it. Dang it, what was his name? Sorry. I'll see if I can think about it in a second. He just watched Tombstone and Once Upon a Time in the West for the first time. Once Upon a Time in the West, the first 15 minutes of that movie is just like a fly buzzing and 3 guys staring at each other. And it goes so long. You're like, holy crap. I sure like these old movies that sure take their time. And then after a minute, you're like, come on. What's going on here, dude? It goes
I don't
so
think I've
long.
seen that.
But it's a good movie. It's got Brunson in it and Peter Fonda is in it. It's good. It's got some stuff. Gary Oldman is epic. I mentioned him last week. He was in that Leon the Professional movie, which his part in that's so amazing that you wish you could like kind of cut out the weird underage girl sexual stuff from it, because he's such an amazing like villain in it. It's like I almost recommend like watch it for him being a villain, if you can get around the creep outness of Natalie Portman being hit on at 12. Well, not that she was hit on, she was more hitting on him, but it was weird.
Well, I mean, Luke kisses Leia in Empire. Like, that's just a thing that's in the Star Wars canon, and like we all just have to live with that. It's so fucked.
We just have to live with it.
Yeah, we're just stuck with it. Because, like, if we watch Star Wars, we're just stuck with that scene.
Look at this. This is how much I obsess about. This is how many little clips of Julia Child that I took. It's driving me crazy.
So upset.
But I can't show them because it's HBO. Did you know that inflation is your fault?
Oh, did we do that?
The Atlantic tells you so. If people are so mad about high prices, why do they keep buying so many expensive things?
That's what did it.
That's real too.
Economist here.
That really came out this week.
As an actual expert in the field of economy.
Linguist here, which makes me an expert in economy too.
This is one of those things where it's like you don't even have to know very much to know that this is bullshit. And like in my head, I'm just thinking about, well, what can when I think about hyperinflation in my mind, in my lifetime, I think about Brazil, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela, and they're not buying expensive things. That's not what's going on there. Like, really? That was why Zimbabwe had that crazy inflation 10, 15 years ago? Because they were all buying expensive things? They had no fucking money. Like, it's just so bonkers.
Yeah, it was funny because there was a thing this week, them saying inflation's down, and now if any company hasn't dropped their prices, it's because they're gouging you. The Biden administration said that.
And also, like,
it's not down. The percent of increase is down. Like somebody put it as I heard Dave Smith put it as, if you gained 50 pounds last year and this year you gained 25 more pounds, so it's 50% down from last year. That doesn't mean that your weight has come down.
Yeah. Where it's like, well, actual justice warriors always going on about how they say like, oh, like the crime rate is down 2% from last year. It's like, well, yeah, but that's 2% down from a 50% increase.
Yeah,
you jackasses.
That's the way people lie with their statistics.
Yeah,
since forever. I mean, they've done that with college forever. For 15 years, we watched college say, "Well, it's only 2% this year. Well, it's only 3% this year. Oh, it's down 1% this year." And all of that was the increase is down, not the price is down. The increase is down. It increased a little slower than the year before that. So this is the show, or writers about the show saying it openly. The show takes Julia Child. The show takes creative liberties with the facts, emphasizing Julia Child's focus on feminism. But this is not strictly accurate.
Not strictly accurate.
Yeah.
It's morally accurate. It's just
while this interaction is possible based on when these women were active, there's no evidence Friedan and Child ever spoke. Put all this stuff of Betty Friedan, like I said, Sartor's in there. Then they have this like whole episode where she goes to a drag show. And then they have a whole episode they wrote in that she had this is in the first season. I already bitched about this, but they wrote in that she had a gay tryst in college once, which there is no evidence for. And I frequently joke, like, I want to do the same way the wokies or the cathedral write stuff into TV shows. I want to do Mormon versions. I want to do Mormon version of Julia Childs. And the Mormon version is you slip in whatever sort of Mormon thing you can anywhere, even though it really had nothing to do with her life anywhere. But you still see, like, we're going to do the Mormon BYU Julia Child's thing. And you imagine that she had a night with hanging out with the elders. And she really, really liked it. And she was about to get baptized. And, she just couldn't because her grandma died. And so she missed her baptism. But, like, just these whole seasons where you just add in all this fan fiction in the middle of it. Like, what if she did? She could have feasibly met missionaries and taken the discussions. This could have feasibly happened. Julia ventures into fiction with Alice Neyman's story. That's the made up is here it is. The most crucial part of the series that heavily relies on a made up story is Alice Neyman's inclusion. But I guess they also had to do that or they wouldn't be considered for any sort of awards nowadays anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I might
I'm
be
looking
running out.
forward to watching the 4th season of The Chosen. This is where Mary comes in and girl bosses Jesus.
Is that happening? Is that happening on that? Or
but they do get criticized for taking liberties because they do.
Are they starting to lean that way though?
No, I'm totally.
You're just saying it's gonna.
I think it's great. But
it's possible to know.
Yeah.
Did you see this? This Kardashian, when you're an influencer, but you don't know how to use your Roman numerals. She's got the clock upside down on the back wall.
It's really good.
And this is real too. I heard a thing a while back that kids nowadays they were having to reteach them how to even read clocks like that at all anyway, let alone with Roman numerals.
No, just yesterday, one of my coworkers, I had to explain to him how like the landline phone worked, like the office phone. I'm like, hey, if you're using speakerphone, you don't have to pick up the handset. And he was like totally flabbergasted. It's like I'm pushing buttons, and I'm like, yeah, see, this is how you dial, and like, yeah. And it was definitely one of those moments where it's because it was totally 90s phone technology, and he was just completely baffled by it.
So I forgot to talk about my post that on the ex-Mormon.
Are you banned yet? How have you not?
No,
been banned?
it hit pretty big. I think it's got like 60 or 70 likes on it now, and which means either they have like a good sense of humor or they didn't kind of get the jab that I was taking at them. But this AI was run by Jonathan. He just had me post it up, and Dick's out for deconstruction calendar. All proceeds go to the NGO Medicalize Kids Young. I'd ask for volunteers, but none of y'all got abs. But I actually think that I think I was kind of too subtle with that Medicalize Kids Young thing.
Yeah, I don't know if they got
it. So it just, I don't know. I guess they had a good sense of humor about it. It just flew over pretty well. Or somebody said, yeah, you do any sort of a desecration of temple stuff and they'll just roll with it no matter what, whatever. But I have one that we were going to put up, but it looked here. Check this one out. I think you guys have already seen it, but present share screen. There it is. I said, none of them have abs. We need to make a bigger, bulkier version. And we got like a John Larson-y looking guy doing the Dick's out for deconstruction. This is this fits a bit closer to the to who would do this. Well, it also looks like that's what we're getting to sign up for the titties one. I guess I could sign up for the titties one or the Dick's out one. I mean, I guess either one would flow, right? But I don't know that there's a whole lot much more. Did you know that according to the New York Times, they've noticed a report reveals a sharp rise in transgender young people in the U.S.
What?
They came across that, yeah.
Oh.
Check this out. Here's a good Christmas card. From our family to yours, Merry Christmas. Wish you were here. That is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Should have gotten that one. I got New York Times. Like, I can't read the articles, but they send me emails of their articles. and they had one that I thought was funny. It was because it was like a total expert. Like, is there actually a rise in shoplifting? And they do like an obvious statistical game where they're like, overall, not really. Where it's like, yeah, nobody's saying overall. Like, it's being accused of happening in specific places with specific policies concerning criminal justice and how it pertains to things like property crime. That's the claim, New York Times, you jackass. But they do this big dumb Dan McLennan like, well, actually, if you look at all the numbers, like for example, like in Kansas, shoplifting is not up. You know, it's like, yeah, nobody's saying that. They're saying San Francisco, Baltimore, New York, you know, Los Angeles, Chicago. That's where it's happening.
Yeah. Well, the White House has warned that the U.S. will run out of funds to aid Ukraine by the end of the year.
Oh no!
I like this.
How will we stand with Ukraine?
Shows 4 kids on a bike. Some old picture. It says, your mom thought you're riding your bike around the block for 8 hours, but in that time you went 5 miles away, explored an abandoned house, jumped over some garage roofs, attempted a Ouija board, built a den in the woods, and made your own fire.
That's 100% accurate.
Yeah, that's pretty true. We got wild when we were young. Got wild. The Washington Times, a surge of detransition lawsuits pose threat to boom.
Yay, lawsuit time.
Stuff's a switching. See, this is what I feel like if I try to do religion without really being a true believer. That's the worry, is that you're this guy. You can't be this guy. You got to be real. Anyway,
all right.
We were. I don't know that we ever hit. You wanted to say your piece on nihilism from last week. Did we get a chance to cover it, or?
I'm on another time. I'm kind of tired now.
You're running low. Did we took too long BSing about?
Oh, it's fine with the McData stuff. You know, we got there.
McData always drains you.
Did you guys see?
McData drains.
This is just kind of a stray, but there's a movie that's popped out called The Oath.
Oh yeah, that's about Moroni, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you see? So the guy who made the movie, like, came out with a video today calling out the church's PR department because they've supported all these they've supported like Dan.
I've actually got it right here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't listen to it.
Well, he talks about how, you know, they came out and open support for Love Loud and Imagine Dragons and stuff like that.
So this wasn't church created?
No, it's independent. But they won't.
And
they're
they
like, so he's pissed because he's like, look, I'm a faithful guy. I'm taking a positive stance on the Book of Mormon, you know, and you know, you guys aren't radio silence. You like, there's no support, you know.
They didn't say anything, nothing. Is it because they have to sign off on the script or something?
I don't know, but he calls them out. He calls out all of these other instances where they're being like hypocritical if they are doing that. So
I had somebody, I linked that in the description there, but I had somebody who's a high quality painter. He listens to us sometimes, and he was talking about the process that he has to go through or he hasn't ever done it, but he knows people who they do have to go through to get a painting accepted for the temple or something like that. And it's a long, hard, difficult process, and you have to take criticism on your painting. If they didn't like your painting, they will ask for you to change something in your painting, like ridiculous little things, like change those eyes or something like that. And some painters are like, no, you don't ask me to change a painting like that. And the only ones that they'll take are the painters who will make whatever little change, but the changes are petty little things. Like, no, I don't really like this expression on the face right there. No, I don't like the eyes. The eyes should be open or closed right there. And the ones who play ball and will make those little subtle changes are the ones who get in, and the ones who won't, even if like the painting was perfectly believing religious or whatever, but they'll only play ball with the people who take all all the criticism from every step of the process. And I'm guessing that's a little bit the same here. Because the church, Risa says the church is trying to look more evangelical.
But
A movie about the Book of Mormon aligned with the branding.
Yeah. Have you noticed
I
that
don't
too?
know.
Have you guys seen that they've been not putting Moroni's on the top of temples?
Yeah, not only
Wait,
that, they started.
That really?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
started
they-
using a cross when you
Google
Google them
Taylorsville
too.
and the Orem Temple.
Like if you Google direction instead of like a Moroni temple, Moroni, they'll show like a cross too.
Didn't they
Oh.
say they officially discontinued the Angel Moroni?
Well, they
Like,
just built this
there's-
Saratoga one.
There
next
will
to
be
me.
like a last temple to get a Moroni. I don't remember which one, but
Oh, really?
yeah,
That's official, huh?
pretty darn sure.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That's
I'm
that
more
would
than
be one of
positive.
the biggest changes. Like, I guess they would do something like that quietly, but that would be a huge change.
Oh yeah,
I'm more than positive. Like in this situation, had this guy ran the whole thing by them and got them involved from the start, but then he would have had to take in petty criticisms, like petty, difficult criticisms, like make that smile a bit better. And some of it could have been like, I like the performance that guy gave. Like it was nuanced. It was, but no, make him happy. Like worse than
Yeah.
like a Hollywood studio would give you on stuff. Because that's how this other guy says they
Yeah,
get
notes
out
from the
pain.
prophet.
Yeah,
notes
but
from the
he
forum would be
also
something.
calls out them dumping like all sorts of resources toward the chosen.
They do?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Like the set that Chosen uses is the church's set. It's like a multi-million-dollar set for Jerusalem.
Oh.
So they're just letting him use it, but they wouldn't let him use a thing or something like that?
No, he wasn't complaining about that. He's just all he's complaining about is that they're like they won't like stand behind, like they won't support it or anything like that. They won't like, yeah. Watch the video. He's pretty, let him speak for himself. But like, he's pretty thorough and like calling out like all these different instances.
Hope you find yourselves happy and well. Handedly saved the hit TV series The Chosen. As the story goes, after the success of season 1,
they saved
The Chosen was still struggling to fund season 2. My church stepped in to save the day, offering what I understand to be a significant amount of funds toward the series.
They gave him direct
budget,
money.
in addition to giving exclusive, never before granted access to their coveted, multi-million-dollar Jerusalem set, which The Chosen still uses to this day. My church continued its support, fully backing the series on BYU TV. With
The thing is, they'll
billboard
probably come
advertising
down on him for calling him out like this too. It's weird.
and more.
Yeah.
It's no stretch to say the tremendous and unprecedented public support from my church is the primary reason The Chosen, with its powerful and uplifting message, was able to reach hundreds of millions the world over. This again in support of a for-profit venture, The Chosen LLC. And I would be remiss not to also throw in the infamous Steak Lagoon days, which went on for decades unquestioned in my church, supporting and patronizing a for-profit amusement park from pulpits all across Utah. And what about the amazing celebrities my church hires to perform with the Tabernacle Choir?
I mentioned this to the painter guy. I'm like, well, why can the music be people from whatever walk of life or world or performer, and they don't have to like nitpick every little detail about what they do? Or maybe they do. I don't know.
Are we to believe these world-class professionals are performing for free? The walls of my church's temples are built by for-profit construction companies. Does this make them unholy? Given my church's history of public support for unaffiliated and sometimes antagonistic endeavors, would it not seem common sense that my church would have great interest in not only acknowledging, but aiding the first universal independent epic based on their own book?
Wasn't there a Book of Mormon movie?
Not independent. Not.
There was
not
like a Nephi
independent.
movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I don't remember. There was one about the judges. I don't know if that was ever released though. Anyway.
I thought there was like a full release Nephi movie.
Yeah, like wasn't the whole thing like a guy like intended to do like a 12-part
Yeah.
thing, and did the first
Right.
couple chapters, and it was famously bad.
Yeah, that was like back in like 2000 or like it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, that was a
99,
long
2000.
time ago.
This is trippy. I don't know about. I mean, the Lagoon Day thing seems like a stretch of a petty.
Well,
thing.
he's just what he's doing is just he's not necessarily even disagreeing with some of the things that they've done.
He's just saying like, why?
He's just bringing him up. Like, look, you've done stuff here, and here. Why not? Why are you not like supporting something that's like positive?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like
I
kind of
wonder if it's-
promoting, you know, the whole
Yeah.
message, you know, of the church.
I wonder if it's any good.
Why do we throw money at Dan Reynolds and Love Loud and give them accolades and you know, when they're, you know, openly hostile to the church back, you know?
The greatest collaboration of non-religious, unaffiliated souls
Yeah, it looks pretty fancy.
ever to unite in the production of a film that reflects positively on my church's cherished beliefs. After my church PR screened The Oath, my PR firm, led by a wonderful Jewish man, cordially petitioned my church not for money or endorsement, but rather for what any reasonable, prudent person would ask from a church family: acknowledgement that The Oath exists, with an announcement of support for the Herculean efforts of one of their own. Unfortunately, my PR's earnest and heartfelt pleas were met with inaction. Further, The Oath's head of general sales, also an amazingly hardworking Jewish man who's gotten us in over 600 theaters across the nation, sent an earnest and open letter to my church's PR expressing his hurt and confusion that my church would publicly ignore perhaps the greatest opportunity in its history to expand awareness for the amazing
So like,
stories.
what's the is he just calling him out, or like is he asking for something at the end of this?
I don't know. I mean,
It's just an open letter to them.
Yeah.
What's the oath about?
Moroni.
I don't know. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at
It's Moroni. It's a story.
Because I bet there's something in there that's the reason why. It's either the church is just ignoring him because the church is too big and they don't care, which is valid and a thing, or there's content in the oath that they'd rather not put their money into, which maybe he has an underlying problem with, since they're like supporting the chosen and other such things. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. I'm gonna have to look
no,
it
I'm
up.
curious. There's clearly something else going on here. That
I
we're
see.
not-
I've got a tweet here. Hold on. I will pull it up. Present, share the screen window. Tags for each LDS film guide, blah, blah, blah. Oh, how do I get down there? I'm unsure if it's going to be any good, but I will probably watch it once it's available on stream. Oh, I don't know. It's just, this was Lego Joseph Smith pushing it out, but it doesn't say much about it. He says, I'm actually boycotting this movie. Lego Joseph Smith's a pretty mainstream person.
Oh yeah, it's a Twitter handle, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty. I mean, he's pretty down the line believer dude. Cringe is a good word to describe my feelings too. I don't know. His promo and fundraising vids always seemed more like he was trying to start a movement versus making a movie. I don't know. I swear it's just about. Oh yeah, here it is. My interest died after he changed the plot from being a story about Captain Moroni to a story about the prophet Moroni with a fake love story as he is chased by Lamanites.
Okay.
That sounds like something I could see them being like, well, if you're going to do that sort of fan fiction, we can't.
Yeah.
Well, it could have happened.
They could have met, what's her name? They could have met Simone de Beauvoir. They could have met.
And what Moroni needs to have like a gay experience at college.
They could have met Betty Friedan. That's why the church's statement about love loud exists. They keep certain tithe pay they're still paying. Is he MAGA? I think it's so ironic how some people who are not in possession of children tell the rest of us to have children. I don't have children. I tell you to have children, but I would have a kid if I could have a kid right now. All I need to find is like
I get all my parenting advice from Chris.
Yeah, all I need to do is like ask out one of those DEI people from. I mean, I saw one or two of them have their pronouns line up with what they appeared, and I'm going to send them an email and ask them out, and I'm going to make DEI babies. Angel Moroni visited Julia Child. That's a good one. So it could have happened. It all could have happened. We're going to make real Mormon stuff, and they'll acknowledge us because we're going to get like a bigger following, and it's just going to be reimagining everything the same. Everything the woke have made a movie about in the past 7 years, we're going to make a Mormon imagining of it. And
You remember the Vincenzo Di Francesco video where he found the Book of Mormon with the cover ripped off of it in Italy, and then like I don't know, he read the book and it like. Do you remember that one? It was a total missionary video, you know. Like,
I think what's any like the He-Man movie?
They need to do that like with Julia Child. You know, she walks out and looks in the wastebasket and sees a book there without a cover and is like, "What's this?" You know.
We'll have the He-Man Mormon version. We'll have. I mean, what else went woke? It's got to be stuff that went woke. We're gonna have something that went Mormon. The He-Man version. What else went woke? There's going to be a Marvel that went Mormon. I mean, we'll get it done, man. We just got to get to writing. So, anyway, it's about time for me. Oh, he heard that. I think he's starting to get the
Charlie Dog. Can Charlie Dog tell when the show's wrapping up?
Yeah, he's staring me down now. All right, y'all. Well, it was fun. Maybe this will be the last time ever we got to talk about Dan McClellan. Ever in the future?
Maybe. I don't know.
He'll find a way.
Like menorah. Happy Hanukkah. Yeah. Merry Christmas, y'all. Today is December 7th, 1941. A day that will live in infamy. It's a Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
And Charlie and I got to go walk for Pearl Harbor Day. So thanks for chilling, LSD Affected Mormon, Mr. Diversity. And you know any of those diversity people you can set me up with, Kevin? Like, any of those diversity. It says homework. Count the number of times the church quotes the Book of Mormon on their Facebook versus as far as it's translated correctly Bible. Huh. Which one wins? I don't know which one wins after like just right when you say that.
I don't know.
I guess we got to do that.
We'll have to find out.
Thanks for all your facts tonight, Flip, and none of all of your facts are based on opinion, though.
That's true.
And I'm gonna rate myself my bias tonight. My bias was I'm exceptionally good at this because I think about this all the time more than the average McClellan. And
look, the thing I believe in that I found my foundation on is the good things and not the bad things. And so
I'm going to rate myself coming in right at 0 perfect bias. Like the teeter-totter with me tonight was boom. Just didn't even tilt one way or the other. I just hit
like any bias I expressed was in favor of the oppressed. So it makes it okay.
I just hit pure neutrality truth. I just hit it. It was like pure crystal. It was like the crystal meth from I am Walter White of neutrality. Like no bad things in my truth today. I was perfectly unbiased. And I'm good. I'm especially good at assessing this. So
well done. What an example.
Thanks, guys.
All righty.
All right.
Where's Charlie Dog? Bring him on.
Oh, he's right behind me on the bed, staring at me. Charlie, all right. Charlie, maybe he can poke his head right. Charlie, come here. Come here. Oh, here you go.
There we go.
He's ready to. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Charlie Dog.
Peace out, y'all.
See ya later, y'all.